Hello there, my name is Bruce Rain from Brank's Creations, and thank you very much for joining me for this live stream today. It is currently just after 11 on Saturday morning, here where I am, in Sydney. I have this rather persistent and annoying noise on the top of my shed, or should I say this studio, disguised as a shed, of pigeons. I suspect they're doing naughty things up there because it's that time of year. Oh, echo. Last time I did a live stream, my battery of my microphone here went flat, and as a result of that, I switched on the microphone on this camera here and forgot to switch it off again. So that's why the echo is there. My apologies for that. I hope that is all gone and back to normal now. Oh, pigeons, come on. So anyhow, I must get out there and maybe chase them away in a minute, but we'll just see. Let's go and say hello to the chickens very quickly. Oh, there's a chicken. Very annoyed and noisy chicken. Okay, so I'm going to do the normal thing. I'm going to say hello to everyone here who's joining. I'm going to say hello to Mark Anning, 64-bit guy. Hello there. Thomas Armstrong, Retro Tech Tom, Apples Anonymous, it's Nick, Ryan Joffrey, Steve from Mac 84, who I thought was streaming, but now he's not. So there you go. I was able to warn him just in time. Will K. Mac Vintage, 0.5, Tev Rudin, Roger Salter, Gut Bomb. Bruce will be playing the pony game. Yes. Oh, because I'm such a big gamer. I'm a massive game head. Anyhow, I would like to just say a shout out to Amber from iFixit, who I was supposed to be having a meeting with this morning, but unfortunately that has been delayed to next week. iFixit, for those who aren't aware of iFixit, they provide those wonderful guides. They also provide tools, of which I use quite a lot. And provide those wonderful guides for sort of tearing down computers and potentially repairing them yourself. And actually, it's not just computers. I think the guides for all sorts of stuff. And of course, that's something that I hold very, very close to me with doing repairs. People doing their own repairs, and it's not just vintage computers that need repairing. There are all sorts of things, and I sort of feel very strongly about people repairing their own stuff and keeping things going for as long as possible, because otherwise, I will give you a classic example. Let's take something like a dishwasher. Now I have a dishwasher that had a problem, and I had a service technician come out, and he sort of said, it's going to need a new controller. It's going to be more than it would cost to buy a new dishwasher, so you should just buy a new dishwasher. Now, you've got to remember that a controller is a little PCB in the side of the dishwasher that's about this big. And have a think about just how much material is in a dishwasher with just this tiny little part. Now, as it turns out, I was able to repair that part, and I got the dishwasher working for very, very, very cheap. I think it was like the most expensive part was actually getting the guy to come out and show me where the board was. But I just sort of feel like to put so much of that product into landfill. Some of it will get recycled, hopefully. The metal, they might take that away from it. Maybe not. A lot of the plastic, though, ends up in landfill. And if we can keep these things going for longer, it's a good thing for the environment. Jared Burma, hello there. Tommy Thomas, hello there. Macman142, hello there. Did I say hello to you, Roger? Just in case I didn't. Hello, I think I did. Ruby iMac slot loader. Okay, so Roger is just saying, I picked up a Ruby iMac slot loader. Give bong on boot, but no video. Looks clean inside and capsule good. Where should I start? Well, unfortunately, I am not particularly good on the bubble iMacs, on the colourful iMacs. I have not really done much work on those at all. I do know that they have video problems, and they are probably related to capacitors, because they were computers that did get made around the time of, the capacitor plague, where there were lots of bad capacitors going on. I also know that a lot of those slot loaders can have issues with the flyback transformer, if I'm if I'm not mistaken. But someone, probably like Steve, probably has more idea. There we go. Sadly, the flyback and analog boards are the culprit there. Is it a revision with the VGA out on the back? Make a post on Tinker Different. Yeah, that's a very good piece of advice. Tinker Different is the place to have a look at. But yeah, I had heard that there are problems with the flyback transformer on these. And it is one of the issues, I think, with the whole CRT thing, cathode ray tubes, computers with cathode ray tubes. They parts wear down on these things. They really do. And no one is making them anymore. I mean, I don't think anyone is making new flyback transformers. Why would you? Because no one makes CRTs anymore. Everything's gone sort of liquid crystal and stuff like that. So I sort of fear that the future of iMac G3s is probably going to end up being people ripping out the CRTs and putting LCDs in place, because I think some of those CRTs are just not going to be able to get repaired. Even with the vintage Macs that I work with, the compact Macs, those flyback transformers are very hard to get hold of. Kai Robinson did actually tell me of someone in America that is apparently selling new old stock flyback transformers to those. That's great. I haven't investigated. I don't know what the cost is, but you know, it's one of the really annoying things that's one part that's gone, and that makes the computer unusable. How are we going here? John Wonder, greetings from Kansas City. Hello, greetings right back at you. George Walt, greetings from Austria. Hello there. And I have a Rev A iMac that likes to get a bit zappy. So one thing you can do with the clicky zappy ones, that can often be because of the anode cap on the CRT, so the anode cap that goes on. Sometimes you might need to take that anode cap off, give it a good clean on the inside, give the CRT a good clean, and then seal it around the outside with non-conductive grease. I think Sean from Action Retro, I think, did something like that in one of his videos, and that does help to stop the arcing that can occur with those flyback transformers, or I could be talking nonsense. It's always possible. Helped for a bit, but then it came back. That's interesting to note. It could just be a sign of a failing flyback, couldn't it? I mean, it could just be the first signs of a flyback that's failing, and it will then eventually die. I actually have... I only have one G3... Oh, no, I lie. I have two G3 iMacs. That's right, I forgot about that. I got a freebie from someone. I must find a home for it. I don't need it. So I have two G3 iMacs that work. One is a sort of a purpley colour, and the other one is sort of a bluey purpley colour. It's that kind of... I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this colour, blurple. It's sort of... some people see it as blue, some see it as purple, so blurple's a good name for it. So I've got a Blurple iMac, and then I've got a Snow iMac. I plan to keep the Snow iMac. I want an iMac in my collection, but I don't really need two. They're so bulky. So I'm actually going to see if I can find another home for that one. I'll probably jump onto some of those vintage computing forums, or, you know, for sale swap things on Facebook, and see if anyone is interested in taking this. It doesn't have a keyboard, unfortunately, or a mouse. And then, of course, I have an eMac, because you've got to have an eMac, but no more than one because they're so big. How many eMacs does Steve have, I wonder? How many eMacs does Steve have in the basement? The reason again, the eMac was a freebie that I got from someone, and it was the one with the swivel stand, and I actually quite like the swivel stand on those eMacs. They're kind of cool. So, but then that's pretty much it for me for the big CRT kind of G3 range. Then sort of I have like a couple of G4 iMacs, but of course that's LCD. So, arcing through the side of the cable to the side of the tube. You see, now that's not good. Side of the cable. So you might need to seal it or something like that. At least 5. Well, that's right, because you need to have them. It's pain, but not impossible to wind a flyback. I'm not actually sure it's possible to do this glass work to make a CRT unless you're doing it at scale. Yeah, I have heard, someone has said to me that flybacks can be repaired. I actually have a dead one here. Hello. Grab them by the tail. And they're all sealed up. You know, they've got all this like enamel-y type stuff inside here. I cannot see any way that I would get this open without destroying it. I mean, maybe I would. I don't know. But I've never tried. Maybe I should one day. I mean, this is useless as it is. As I've mentioned before, I've said this before on my live streams, I have rewound a transformer before, and this is basically just a transformer. So you'd be doing M1, M3 SSD upgrades like the guy in Canada? Probably not. I tend not to do any of those sorts of tiny weeny little surface mount stuff anymore. I still do an occasional laptop repair, but I think there are other people out there doing that sort of stuff. It's kind of, I'm probably not going to be doing that sort of stuff. I'm very pleased to see that on the latest Mac Mini that has come out, the storage is actually removable. Now, I think we all know that it's going to be like Apple's storage and it won't work with anyone else's. But when it is removable storage, you can usually find that at some stage in the future, someone will reverse engineer that and then we'll potentially be able to get storage for a cheaper price. Because one of the interesting things with the N4 Mac Mini that's just come out, really nice little computer, by the way. I have a lot of good things to say about it. Now, I'm quoting this stuff in US dollars, not Australian dollars. We, of course, pay a lot more for things out here. But the latest one, the lowest spec of that one, which is 16 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigs of storage, that lowest spec one is $599 US. And when you have a look at the benchmarks of that computer, the speed benchmarks of that computer, that is a very powerful computer for $599, and I think it's a great buy. One of the downsides is if you decide you want to upgrade the internal storage to a more useful size, like say 1 terabyte, that's an additional $400 to the cost of that computer. That's 2/3 the price of the computer itself, which is just, to me, is kind of like it's that Apple tax where you're just thinking, come on, we didn't come down the last shower. Now, they got Thunderbolt, was it 4 on the back or something like that? You can go and get yourself a fast external SSD or something like that and use that storage. That's what I do with the computer I have here. What I'm streaming on at the moment is an M1 Mac Mini. I picked this up actually second-hand and I only paid a few $100s for it. It was great. It's only because it's the lowest spec one. It's 8 gigs of RAM and 256 internal storage. But I have connected a 2 terabyte SSD to it. So when I do my live streams, I record all of that down onto that 2 terabyte. And it was a way of me getting quite a powerful computer for quite cheap. What I used to have here was, I think it was a 2012 Mac Mini Intel. It was a high spec one. I think it was the i7. And the CPU would just be maxed out at 100% when I would do live streams because I have so many cameras and stuff connected. This on the M1, it barely plips. It barely plips on the CPU. It's like about 1/3 or something like that. I have no regrets of about sort of changing the computer that I use here for live streams. Jeez, I've gone on for a bit. Watched your video recently about the Vevor Fume Extractor. Mind sharing what you did for the power button mod? It's really interesting you say that because I have had so many people ask me that, and I really think it does warrant, even if it's just a short video. The only thing that stopped me from doing that is because I've got this thing mounted under the desk. It's a bit of a pain in the backside to get it out again, but not impossible. So I think what I will do is I will do a recorded demonstration of that mod and put it up on my channel because you are not the first person to ask me that. The only thing that I did, which I can, the first thing I had to do is locate which pads on the board I needed to wire the switch up to. That wasn't too hard because the existing switch is wired to it. But the tricky part was that those pads weren't really designed to have a cable coming off it, so it would be very easy to just yank them off by accident. So what I ended up doing, the circuit board is only a 2-layer board, not a 4-layer, which means that there's no layers in the middle that you can potentially damage. So what I did is I found a spot of blank on that board where there weren't any traces, and I drilled a hole through it so that when I attached the wire onto the board, I could use a cable tie and tighten it up so it's on that board. So if it gets yanked, it pulls on that cable tie. It doesn't pull on where it's soldered to the board. So that's the only thing that was a little bit unusual about the way I did that. And it's not, what I did isn't clean and tidy. It's literally the cable's just coming out the bottom of the unit, and then I just run it up through here. But I will do a video on that because, as I say, you're not the first to ask. So that's a coming. Gibbertronics, hello there. Scamperly, hello there. What else have we got here? Francois, hello there. I've seen people do flybacks that requires degassing epoxy and other stuff. Oh, okay. You mean like you have to put it in a vacuum to make sure that the epoxy doesn't have any bubbles in it. I use an M1 Mini 16256 and I have 2 terabytes external NVMe, and it serves me just fine as a daily driver. Yeah, my daily driver is actually an M2 Pro? Max? Pro? I think it's Pro. I think the Max is the other one. It's an M2 Pro. I got the top spec Mini of the M2 one, and it's been great. It's been really good. I mean, I do all my video editing on that, and it's been really, really good. Air isn't good enough of an insulator of those voltages. Yes, the one thing we do have to remember is that air is an insulator, but it is also a conductor. Let's face it, lightning wouldn't exist if air didn't conduct electricity. What else? Quicksilver Oz, hello there. Copied your mod on my new Vevor Fume extractor. Works a treat. Only difference, I installed a mono audio jack on the back so I can unplug the power extension switch. Bloody hell, that's a good idea. I feel like I need to do that. I did the lazy version. Now, I did call this live stream building RAM, so I probably should get on to that. I will just mention a couple of things quickly. I haven't live streamed for like 3 weeks. The last one I did was a workshop and wine live stream where, you know, I get a little bit tipsy while I'm live streaming. I had a lot of fun with that. But I did release a video, because I do try and do the pre-recorded videos as well, because the pre-recorded videos are generally better for the channel growth. I did one on this product here. I'm just going to go to my... Smash that like button. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. But please do smash the like button. Smash. Yeah, I did a video on this, which is the WICK Pico Slim, and the reason why I like this one so much is because it is so incredibly tiny, and most importantly, it's incredibly thin. And they've achieved this by having the what do you call it? I'm just going to open my case up. These can be opened. My case is always clipped together, but they clip apart as well. This is achieved by actually having the board go down the middle of one of these sorts of connectors. Rather than having a right angle connector, it's a straight through connector, and then the board just sits in the middle. And one of the concerns that was expressed to me by Steve from Mac84 is like, I'd be worried about the strength of this thing. And I have got to tell you, this is rock solid, soldered in this way. You might be thinking it's not, but this is not going anywhere. I mean, seriously, this is absolutely rock solid. I have 100% confidence in the sort of the rigidity and the, you know, sort of long-term use of this. That is never coming undone. So yeah, absolutely rock solid. But I'll be doing some comments about that in my next video, which is going to be about the BlueSCSI equivalent. So the BlueSCSI, I apologise to everyone for going down this BlueSCSI path, but of course it's with the vintage computing stuff, it's quite important to me. I received this from the BlueSCSI people ages ago. It's a bit dusty actually because I had it without the lid on for donkey's years. So this is the very first of the BlueSCSI version 2 external that came out. And as you can see, it's quite a large unit. Then they managed to shrink it down quite a lot, but it still had these little bits that jut out the side. And then this is the latest revision, which is a lot narrower. I've done sort of tests with this one here, but I feel it's very important for me to do a comparison with the latest revision of this because it's a little bit unfair to be testing with the very first revision. So I'm going to be doing a video on building these. I went to my good friends at PCB Way and I got myself a bunch of these external. I don't actually plan to build all of them. I don't really need that many, but the point is that I can get 10 of these for $5 US plus delivery. Now, you know, from PCB Way, and in actual fact, they gave me 11. They always give an extra one. I imagine maybe if there's a problem, they might throw that extra one away, but assuming they probably do one extra one, and if the one extra one is fine, they include that in the package. And every time I've ever ordered anything from PCB Way, when I order 10, I get 11. And so I've got 11 of these external boards, and as I say, I don't actually need 11, but I mean, $5 US for 11 of them? I mean, why wouldn't you? I can just build them as required. It's as I do with the internal BlueSCSIs as well. I just have a pile of boards. I have all the components in a container, and if I think, oh, I've got a new vintage computer, I need to create a drive for it, I just build one. I build it as it's required. 313313, hello there. Thank you very much for the compliment. I do appreciate that. And hello to you from Iraq. Oh, hello, Colin. Colin is here. Okay, I've got to. If we're talking about stepping on Lego, I've got to go back here. Did you end? Okay, we're going to go back to Quicksilver Oz. Did you end up fixing that SE analog board from past stream? Now, the one, I think that was actually a Mac Plus analog board, not SE, unless we're talking a lot further back. So I had a Macintosh Plus that was giving me all sorts of issues with the display. So the vertical was being all sort of squished in. And that one has been gradually getting better. But one of the big issues I have with that is that the flyback transformer has failed. I don't have any spares of these. Until I get hold of a replacement, there's nothing I can do with that board. I mean, it still has problems, and all those problems can be fixed. But until I get a flyback transformer, I can't. I've kind of hit a stumbling block, you know. So I am going to see if I can source another one of these. I'm going to put the word out on the street and just see if someone has got a flyback transformer they can spare or sell or whatever the case is. What will Thunderbolt 5 at 120 gigabytes a second do? No idea. What if I step on it? So what are we stepping on? Okay. What were you going to... I'm not sure what you were stepping on. Are you stepping on Thunderbolt 5? I don't know. Pretty happy with the BlueSCSI V2 and my PowerMac 7200 120, and it's going well so far. Now, the 7200, I can't remember if it's a 7200 or 7300, because Apple did weird things with those numbers, where they actually kind of went, as they came out with later models, the numbers went backwards. Weird. But some of those 7000 models actually had really fast internal SCSIs. So the BlueSCSI V2 is definitely one to use in those. Or I should say the ZuluSCSI, or I guess the ones using the RP2040 CPU. It's definitely good to use those faster ones in those models, because you will get much better SCSI throughput with them. Stepping on Lego, you take more damage than the Lego does. Oh yeah, always, always. I did hear a tip with Lego. If you do know that there's, a lot of the time you don't know the Lego is there, but if you do know the Lego is there, you shuffle forwards. Don't step, shuffle forwards. Okay, I'm going to get it wrong again, aren't I? Leon Edate, I think. Oh, God, how many times have you told me and I just keep getting it messed up? You know what I need to do? I need to make a recording of it and then I can play it back to myself. I'd like to recap my PSU, but there's some white hard plastic-like crap sealing the caps. I have no idea what to do. Should I try stuff on the spare PSU, or should I just keep using it? It works fine. Yeah, look, if the PSU works fine, I generally say that's okay. What I generally find with PSUs is when they fail, they just kind of stop working. They don't necessarily make things blow up. The worst case scenario, if you've got a really old one, is you might get a reefer cap go all smoky on you. I mean, other people might disagree with me on that one, but when it comes to power supplies, if someone says, I don't know, should I recap it yet? I sort of think, well, you know, you can sit on it for a while if you want. If it starts taking a long time to start up, or if it just stops, you know, we can then look at recapping in there. But that white stuff is there. It's designed to stop the capacitors from vibrating. It's a real pain, and you just kind of have to mechanically remove it. There's really nothing else you can do. If you do want to recap, you've just got to break the stuff away as carefully as you can. But I have had times where in the process of removing that sort of goop, I've ended up damaging the capacitors. But it doesn't really matter if you're replacing them. So, Jay from the House of Moth is in the house. Hello there, Jay. I hope everything is going well in your neck of the woods. Okay, now, what's the cheapest option to build a BlueSCSI? Well, I can tell you the cheapest option, and I'm going to talk about this in the video that I'm releasing. But if we're talking about internal, the cheapest option is to get the PCBs made yourself, buy all the components, and then assemble them. But that only works with an economy of scale. If you only want one, that's not a very economical way to do it. But as someone like me who is just, there will never be enough BlueSCSIs in the world, because I keep acquiring new computers, and I mean, I've got new computers coming. I've got a 2FX that I've managed to acquire from Perth. Sorry, 2X. So I recently received a 2FX, and I've got a 2X that's coming as well. That will mean that I have the full Macintosh 2 range. So that's the Mac 2, 2X, 2CI, 2CX, 2FX, 2VI, 2VX. So that's the full Mac 2 range. I'll have all of them in my collection when the 2X arrives. And the Mac 2 is one that I've got with the ROM upgrade so that it can read high-density floppy disks. So I'm actually really happy to have that complete collection. That's something I've wanted to have for a really long time. So if you're just wanting one, my recommendation is to just buy one from one of the resellers. It really is. But if you're in a situation where you're thinking, I want to be able to make a lot of my own, there are two ways of doing it. One, you can get the PCBs made and you can get them with all the surface mount components already put on. So what you do is when you order them from a supplier, like PCBWay or JLC PCB, you send them the bill of materials and you send them the files about where all of these things go, and they have a pick and place machine that goes and puts the components in place, and they get soldered on, and then you get the board with all the surface mount components. All you have to do is attach the Raspberry Pi Pico with through-hole soldering and the connector and jumpers, any of the jumpers that are on the board. That's all you end up having to do. I've never done that, and there's a very specific reason why I've never done that, and that is because I love surface mount soldering. I get a great deal of joy from it. So for me, when I buy them, I just buy blank boards and I stick all the surface mount stuff on myself, and I really enjoy that. I sit down here at night, with a bit of music going or maybe some cricket on the TV or something like that, and I just sit here soldering the components on a bit at a time, and I find it very relaxing, great way to pass the time, and a very inexpensive way of building them. So that's how I do it. That's a way of me being able to make these for very, very cheap. I mean, really cheap. The most expensive thing on there is the Pico, and I picked those up for about $7-8 Australian dollars. Stepping on the WICK for the stability. Right, I'm just going to keep... I'm getting lots of questions in here, so I'm just doing my best to answer them all. Got 50 vintage Macs that need drives. Well, in that instance, again, you just have to make that decision about whether you're willing to take on all of the surface mount soldering, or whether you sort of want to just buy get them the boards made up. Now, I've never done a video on ordering a board with all the components in place, and that's because I've never done it. But I would imagine someone out there would have a tutorial video to say, okay, you've got your Gerbers, you've got your bill of materials. Here's how you then put in an order with a supplier to get a board, the board's ready made for you. Okay. Hello, Charlie. Thank you for joining. Good evening from AZ. Is that Arizona? I think I know most of the states. And how do I pronounce your surname? I assume JLEZ Customs. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce the JLEZ. So any clues would be welcomed. Mr. Crimstar, hello. M4 Mac Mini has removable storage. Just saw a teardown. Looks proprietary, of course. Yes, I was actually just covering that a little while ago. I did a bit of a rant about the M4 just a little while ago, talking about what a good computer it is. But most people are of the belief that within a certain amount of time, someone will reverse engineer that proprietary storage, and people will be able to add their own. Want to see a Zulu IDE someday? Well, there are lots of options out there for IDE at the moment. So Patrick Pitts, hello there. Okay, don't solder things on backwards. Yes. 2 of the 4 2FX are bad, as in battery damage. Yeah, I mean that's. I have got 1 good 2FX and 2 bad ones. Yeah, it's 2 batteries on the thing, and the sorts of batteries that they were putting on the 2FX are those ones that were very prone to fail. You have a contrast. If you look at, say, the Mac 2, the early Mac 2, that had 2 batteries on it, but they used to use those Vata axial batteries, and they really don't leak much, if ever. If they do, it's relatively minor. The ones, the removable batteries they put in the 2FX, 2 of them on there, they had a tendency to... they would actually pop and splatter stuff. So you can end up with blobs of battery gunk all over the place, just doing untold damage. And of course, I think the 2FX is a 6-layer board, which means that there's data paths, address lines, data lines going through inner layers. And so when the things like the vias get corroded through, it can be an absolute nightmare bringing them back to life. But we do, of course, have the reloaded board, the 2FX reloaded. So if you're handy with a soldering iron, you can always remove the components from one and transfer them onto a new one. Okay, the power supplies. Oh, that's okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I've got lots of power supplies that work for these. I've recapped maybe one of them. The other ones are still running on the old caps. I had one with a failure on the little daughter board. In the power supply, there's the big board, and then there's a little board that has the LED light on it. Actually, not all of them like this. Some are different. But one of them with the little LED light. And I had one with a failed, I think, resistor on that. Something like that. And, of course, the frustrating thing was the resistor, I think, was still testing okay. But the thing didn't work, and I knew it was this board because I'd swapped it over with a good one. So I literally just went and replaced each component one at a time. And after replacing one component, it just started firing up. But taking that old component off, it would still test okay, but it was just not working when it had current running through it. Sam Perner, hello there. J Les. So is it J Les? Okay, cool. J Les Customs, hello there. Thank you for joining. All right. Someone already made PCBs for the Apple Silicon SSD blades. There you go. So isn't that fantastic? So anyhow, I have rabbited on here a little bit. As I say, I was talking about the BlueSCSI. I've got a video coming out on this little external one. One of the things I will be saying in the video is I believe that in the future they should adopt the same way of mounting the connector. They will immediately make this thinner. I also think that what they should do is similar to what's being done on this board here, rather than having... See, they've got components underneath the... components sitting underneath the Pico, wherever my Pico is. It's floating around here somewhere. And it's here, somewhere. It's on my desk. I had it here before. But anyhow, so imagine the Pico sitting on here. There are components underneath the Pico, which means it has to be on these headers. And I hate headers. So I think they could probably adopt a similar thing to this and put the Pico on this side, flush mount. So just have pads on this side and flush mount it onto there. But anyhow, I'll talk about all of this in my video in the future. But one of the really important things about the BlueSCSI is that it has been made for cost effectiveness. This has been built to make it as inexpensive as possible. And with that comes sacrifices. There are things I could turn around and say, oh, I think you should do this, and I think you should do this, and I think you should do this. All of a sudden, the price of the thing is going to go up. And the whole thing with the BlueSCSI is about making these as cheap as possible for people. So, how do regular folks ever obtain a Mystic 575 board? Well, so 575, yeah, I mean, you talk about the actual logic board, as in a 575 68040 logic board. You know how I got mine? I actually went onto one of the forums and I said, I would really like an LC 575 board. Does anyone have any spares or they would like to sell? And I got a reply almost straight away. Now, admittedly, that's a while ago. It's a few years ago. It might be a lot harder these days. But I got a reply and I was able to buy one for not too much money at all. And so I literally just put out the word. Simple as that. Now, I have rabbited on about all this stuff. I did a little post on Facebook recently about snap. See, my stuff all just snaps together. Snap, snap, snap. I made this case for the BlueSCSI, and I designed it very, very specifically. It sort of just snaps together like this. And then this goes on the back like that, and again snaps together. And I've built it so that these pins are actually exposed. And you might say, why did you do that, Bruce? You're mad. Well, the reason why I did that is because if you're using a 2CX, 2CI, Quadra 700, 610, 660 AV, 6100, they all have this big plastic thing on the bottom. and when you go and plug this in, they don't fit because the case is sticking out. So I built this case so that you can use this with those computers. So most things are protected, just not these pins. So you just have to be careful if there's any metal around that you don't accidentally short that. But this will fit on a 660AV, 610 or 6100, which has the most annoying case of all when it comes to connecting SCSI. Mark Anning, thank you very much for that. To support your Pi Pico needs. Macman's 142, shameless plug. I just put my spare on eBay, $100 starting bid. That's your 575 board? Well, there you go. People can have a look at that and check it out. Did you build it in Onshape? Yes, I did build it in Onshape. And if anyone's wondering what this little circular thing is, it's you can sort of see what I do here. I make this section here slightly thinner, fewer layers of filament, and then with a little dot in the middle, and that's designed as a button. So when you press this, you're actually pressing the what do you call it, the bootloader button on the Pico. You're not pressing it here because the Pico's not in this case, so you're pressing air with this one at the moment. I found the Pico, by the way, it's here. So yeah, anyhow, I am going to do a video on that, and I will be discussing it. I'll be discussing what I like and what I don't like about it, and of course I will be doing some fairly basic speed benchmarks as well, because you've got to do that. There we go. Now, the live stream. Why did I decide to live stream today? Well, it's because I need to build some RAM. Now, I did a live stream a while ago, and I dug up these, which are my Macintosh IIfx 16 megabyte memory modules. I had a little bit of an issue with these because specifically, I had two issues. Number one of these unfortunately got exposed to the elements, and as a result, there was some corrosion on there. So I'm going to do this one first. Hopefully I can get this one so that it's all working, but this is the ugliest one. Everyone else looks fine and pristine. I also had a bit of a whinge about the way when people get PCBs done, they don't get these pads tinned. I don't know if it's a cost thing, but you know, I always get PCBs with the pads tinned. They will last better. If this does get exposed to the elements, it'll be a hell of a lot easier to clean up. So I have these RAM things here. Now, the challenge that I had with these was that I got given this by Kai, a very, very generous person. He sent this over with a bunch of stuff for me and said, here's some, you know, here are these things. And this was done by this guy called Doug Brown in 2015. 2015, I mean, that's a long time ago. Just going to zoom in here a little. Sorry, folks. I just feel like we're a bit far away. There we go. So 2015, he built these, and I was looking to find out what capacitor needs to go here, because it's very standard with these things. You've got your chip that goes on there, and then you've got a capacitor that represents each one of the chips. One capacitor per chip. And I'm like, what capacitor goes on here? So I do a search for 2FX RAM sims. There's heaps of ones out there, but there's no Doug Brown ones. So then I go to Doug Brown's GitHub page. He's got 2FX ROM there, but no 2FX RAM. So I'm thinking, well, how am I going to find out what capacitor goes there? I did some research and I actually looked in the wrong one and found the wrong size, and that was very stupid of me. But I did manage to find it. On 68K MLA, there was a post where someone said, hey, I want to build these, but I can't find all the Gerbers. And Doug Brown actually responded to it, and he posted not only the Gerbers, but he also posted the file that he used to make them. I don't know what software he used, but there was the file that he used to make them. And when I opened up the file that he used to make them, it was largely text-based, and I found the section that referred to the components, and it referred to the chips, and it referred to a 0.1 microfarad capacitor. So I know that these are 100 nanofarad capacitors need to go on there. Can I place an order for 32 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM? No. Have I said hello to you, Retro Techie? If I haven't, hello there. And I don't think I've said hello to you, John Wonder, either, but I may or may not have. So anyhow, I'm going to start with this one because this is the ugliest one. I hope I can get this all working. Fingers crossed. I will probably end up putting little blobs of solder on these because a lot of these PCBs are usually slightly thinner than the original RAM PCBs. So when you put them in there, you can sometimes have trouble with the contacts on these pins. So I usually put a little bit of blob of solder on those to give them they're a little bit more lumpy and they make slightly better contact. The chips that we are using are these ones here. They are PLCC chips, plastic leaded chip carrier. They're like this. The whole thing about PLCCs is that they can be surface mounted or they can be placed in a socket. So they have these the little pins curl underneath, and so it's not through hole. But you can surface mount them onto a PCB like this, or you can get a socket and they can clip into the socket because they're rounded at the sides. So, okay. I've switched over to Onshape for everything. I have fallen in love with it. Yeah, I love it. I'm trying to actually arrange some sort of affiliate arrangement with them, and I'm finding them incredibly difficult to communicate with, which is a shame because I'm doing a lot of videos that have 3D modeling in them, and until that we come up with some sort of arrangement, I will not be advertising it and I will not be referring to it in my videos. Simple as that. That might sound a little bit petty, but at the end of the day, if I'm going to be saying to people, this thing is awesome, you should use it, I am expecting that I, at the very least, have an affiliate link so that if someone, joins up, I get some sort of kickback from it. But anyhow, that's we need to hear on there with that. So, Charlie Sybert, or is it Sibert? I'm not sure. Does anyone make new RAM, ROM, and cache for the old Power Macs like my 7200? Yeah, it's an interesting question. I have a stack load of those caches, but they're not necessarily from that Mac. They might be from a different Mac. Just a reminder that there is a page on Tinker Different where you will find it's in the what do you call the section called reference section, whatever it's called, where all the reference material is. Because there's the main forum, but there's stuff where there's a whole bunch of information. I can't remember what the section's called. But in that, someone has recently done a post in there that talks about all of the different caches of all the different models of computer. And I'm going to use that because I've got a stack of these caches and I need to find out what they work with. I am going to switch over to the microscope view now, and we're going to start doing some soldering. It's only taken me 43 minutes of talking before actually doing any work. Sorry, everyone. Gosh. Who does he think he is? Now, I had to scrape off a little bit of the screen printing here, but the positioning of these, it's got a little dot here for pin 1, and pin 1 is this end there. There's the pin 1 there. It's got a little dot there. And so these all go with the little notchy thing here facing downwards. PLCCs are probably one of the most annoying things to solder, in particular if the pads aren't long enough. If the pads extend a fair way out from the side of the chip, they're not too hard. But if they are really, if they're really tight, it's kind of hard to get your soldering iron in there. Okay. Alrighty. So, I'm going to start working on this. As usual, I need to start with the flux. What sort of flux do you use? Use a good quality flux, and a good quality flux is Styri. Links in the description, and a discount code if you want to buy some Styri flux. I use Styri ASM, but that could be changing soon because they have a new formula coming out, and it's coming to me. I contacted them about it the other day. The person who was sending it to me, unfortunately, I think was unwell or something and had to take leave, and so they never ended up sending it to me. And they've said if it doesn't come to me soon, they're just going to send it directly from the US. But I do have some new fluxes on the way. They've, I believe, got a new version of the Hydra flux, which is the water-based one, and they've got their sample 99, which is basically their V4. And what they've told me about the V4 sounds really promising, so I'm really looking forward to trying that out. That could end up being my new favourite. But we'll see when it comes. When those new ones come, I will, of course, do a video on it, and we can check those out. But with this sort of stuff, flux is everything. So let's start with some liberal applications and flux. Certainly needs to be liberal. To do anything else would be lacking in logic. Alright, so as with any of these sorts of chips, I always start with one corner. I've just got the flux there. I've got solder on my iron, and I'm going to use the flux to help that solder flow from my iron onto the pad and the pin. Now, because I only do one pin, if I stuff it up, I can very easily undo it and do it again. So there we go. So I've managed to solder one pin there, which I didn't show on camera. It's just there. You just have to take my word for it. I'm going to turn on my fume extractor. There we go. Sorry about the noise, everyone, but it is necessary. GT, hello there. Thank you for joining. Are there any Mac 2 RAM Sims reproduction? Now, David, you've made a very interesting comment there. Mac 2s are unbelievably finicky about the RAM that they use. And unfortunately, I don't actually have the answer. I'm someone who kind of has enough old RAM floating around that I can just grab old stuff and use it with the Mac 2. But I know that there have been lots of reported issues with RAM, Mac 2 RAM and stuff you can get. What I would say, if you are hunting for some Mac 2 RAM, on sort of eBay or something like that, make sure you get ones that have like 8 chips, not the ones that have 2 chips. Because a lot of them you can just get ones that have 2 chips on there, but you're probably going to have more success with the Mac 2 if they have 8 chips. So, but yeah, I'm not sure. Once again, it's probably a good question for Tinker Different. If you jump onto the Tinker Different forum and you sort of have a look around or ask the question on there, I'm sure there will be someone out there that knows where you can get hold of RAM that will work with the 2X. I mean the 2, Mac 2. Whoa. Don't do what I just did. Alrighty, so now I've got one in each corner soldered. I can just work my way along and do the rest. And for this, I'm going to do a little bit of drag soldering. Some people frown on drag soldering, but I like it. I like a bit of drag soldering. And that does not mean soldering while dressed in women's clothes. Oh, got a nice big bridge there. I'll fix that up in a minute. Okay. So what I'd usually do with these PLCCs is I kind of solder them until I think I'm good, and then I inspect them from an angle and just see that they do actually look good. I have absolutely no issue if someone wants to solder dressed in women's clothing. I would definitely not wish to shame someone or anything like that. I think that's perfectly acceptable to do. Right, let's have a look here. So looking at this at an angle, as you can see, we're looking down there. What we're looking to make sure is that we don't have any of these bridging between the two, which is very easy to do with these PLCCs, and make sure that they're all making contact with the pad. So these ones all look fine. I think we're all good with that. And then this one is a little bit harder to see. I have to actually move the thing out. There we go. And that one looks fine too. It's not the cleanest soldering in the world, but it's my first chip for the day, so cut me some slack. Just going to make sure. Yeah, okay, so that first pin, I was just worried about whether this was bridging across onto this piece of copper here, but it's actually meant to join that one. If you have a look, the first pin on each one of these is actually joined to this whole flat area of copper there. So we're all good. Been doing a lot of PLC chip soldering lately. Drag all the way, absolutely. Scamperly, hi Bruce, I'm sitting here trying to get my scamp warmed up enough to move. It's below 0 degrees C. Whoa, that's terrible. At the moment it's 21 C, so it's been very warm the last few days. The hottest day we've had this season so far is, I think it got up to like about 34 or something like that. But it's still early days, it's still spring here, so we've got some warmth coming, and they have told us it's going to be quite a warm season, quite a warm summer, which is never good from a bushfire perspective. But yeah, I mean, you can see I'm in a t-shirt here, and I'm probably going to turn on the air conditioner in a minute because I'm a bit warm. Jason Catlin, I just joined. Will there be any programming needed for them to work? These ones, no. So these are, there really is nothing going on with these other than just some chips on a board. So these are basically just RAM chips, straightforward RAM chips. We have to just have RAM, capacitor goes onto these, and that's it. They're ready to go. That's what actually makes building your own RAM so good. I'm just going to do a quick aside here before I do another chip. I apologise, I am going off on tangents here, but I just wanted to show something here very, very quickly. So I did a video on this a while ago, but these here are these 30-pin chips, or 30-pin RAM sims from Kero's Mac Mods. So this is Kay Koba, who it's Kero's Mac Mods and Satanic Mac Club. What did I just drop? Hope it wasn't important. You'll hope it wasn't important. And these are these little 4 megabyte kits, and what you can do is you can take RAM from these. I mean, I take it from these, but other people have been taking them from, what are they, 16 meg sims or something of a later model. You take these chips off, and you can plonk them on here, and you can make yourself 4 megabyte sims. And I have ended up with quite a few SE30s of late. And for that reason, I'm going to be making a few of these so that I can load up those SE30s with 32 megabytes of RAM, which I think is a very respectable amount for an SE30. Yes, sure, you can take them up to 128, or nowadays you can even take them up to 256. If you want to find out about that, watch the latest Tinker Different live stream. That's a really cool thing. But anyhow, and this is the great thing about these. You can basically buy these. I think they were $8, I think, from Kero's Mac Mods. Let's have a look, shall we? Let's go to the screen. This is Kero's Mac Mods online store, and I tell you what, if you're into vintage computers, it's like being a kid in the candy store with this stuff. Just fantastic things. We've got these accelerators. We've got Mac Classic 2 FPU cards, so you can get a math coprocessor on a Mac Classic, which is wonderful. We've got ROMs, we've got all sorts of stuff, and we've got obviously BlueSCSIs here as well. Just all sorts of stuff. It's very, very hard not to just jump on here and buy everything. But anyhow, Macintosh SE analog board resurrection. How cool is that? A new board for that. Colin did that in one of his videos. Absolutely fantastic. This is what I bought here. So yeah, these are $8 each. And so that effectively works out at $2 per sim. And then if you've got the RAM yourself, you've already got the RAM, it means you can build these for $2 per sim. So just brilliant, brilliant stuff. I love that. I love being able to do that. And, you know, as long as you're reasonably handy with a soldering iron, you're just going to be able to just easily do it for yourself. So SMC RAM modules work great and are pretty easy to put together. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I personally, as I've said many times before, I love surface mount soldering. The more challenging, the better. I realise not everyone has the same feeling as me, but I get a wonderful sense of, I guess, reward when I am building these things. Now, when you end up in a situation like this where we're a little bit crammed in between these two chips, it'd be nice if they were a little bit further apart. The important thing is to always solder from the most accessible side first, because, you know, it's just a lot easier to do that. Once you've got the thing reasonably stable, you can then squeeze into the gap without worrying about moving it too much. So I'll start in this nice accessible corner here and plonk a little bit of solder on there. Solder. I've just decided to change the spelling of solder. It's got a B in it now. And then we're going to come at it from this side. So when you've soldered it with just one pin on that side, you've got a little bit of wiggle room with this. So if it's not perfectly straight, you can then just get that angle right before applying that second blob of solder. So that's now nice and secure. I'll flip it around again, and then we're going to solder along this side, and then we'll do the difficult side. Now, if when you're flowing this, when you're doing this drag soldering, you're finding that it's bridging between the two pins, best thing to do is just add a little bit more flux. It'll just help that solder sort of stay in its lane and not spread across to the next one. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm just keeping an eye on the chat. I'm in a situation at the moment where I think I'm sitting on around about 43 viewers. So sometimes when there's 43 people, and if they all start chatting at the same time, I start missing comments. Now, there is something that I did want to bring up in this chat. I sort of hinted on it a little bit earlier, but I wanted to just get people to talk to. I've got some yellow gunk on here. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to just make it part of this soldering experience. I do want to talk about repairs. Now, obviously, what we do on this video channel, this YouTube channel, most of the time, I'm usually repairing or restoring vintage computers. But I would like to hear from other people about how the hell I'm going to get my soldering iron in here. I'd like to hear from other people about some of the other things they have repaired. So we're not... Oh, Jesus, just dropped something. We're not talking about... I'm not talking necessarily about computers. It can be computers. But is there... old man noises. Is there something else that you have repaired? Washing machine, TV... dishwasher, fridge, anything like that, any repair jobs that you have done that you would like to talk about, because I love talking about repairs. So just repaired the stove. Sol's here. Hello. 211 Twist. That's Sol. Hello. Miss VCF East got dates mixed up and car problems. Uh-oh. Okay, so tell us about your stove repair. Steve, what was wrong with it? And how did you fix it? Wife's crock pot. Okay. So I've changed my soldering iron tips here. I've now got this conical one which bends. And this is a lot thinner. It allows me to kind of get into difficult spots. So I can squeeze this in here and hopefully, with enough solder and flux and determination and whatnot, I can hopefully get this all soldered onto these pins. Hello. Oh, we need to jump across, because Colin's here, we've got to jump across and say hello to the chickens very quickly. There's one. Oh, there's two. I see two chickens off to the right there. One there near the water trough thingy, and then one above her there. And then I have one chicken sitting right next to me. Hello. Little white one. Okay, circuit board went, sad, found a similar one on Craigslist and swapped the board with minor modifications and it worked again, saved myself $1,500. That's a pretty darn good thing. You got to be feeling pretty satisfied when something like that happens. Low beam on my Subaru went supernova and I melted the connector, so I replaced it and did some trust me bro wiring. The colours needed to be wired backwards, but it works. Fantastic. Hello, chickens. Hello. Anyone who's new to the channel, that hello is how some mainly younger Australians talk. The reason why I think people are exposed to it so much is because it's the what do you call it, the probably the TikTok age group. So when they're doing their little TikTok videos, you're getting to hear them do their no. Oh, come on, no. It's not true. No. Hello. All right, so just going to do a quick little inspection of this again from both sides. It looks peachy. And that looks peachy. I'm looking forward to working on one of these that isn't all corroded. As I mentioned at the beginning of the live stream, this is one that got accidentally exposed to the elements and so got some corrosion. I had to clean it up. What are the chickens' names? They don't have names. I used to name them, but then I kind of stopped. We used to have funny names for them. We used to call them like chicken korma and chicken casserole and, you know, chicken schnitzel and stuff like that. But now it's the white one. So there's the big black one, there's the medium-sized black one, there's the little black one, there's the white one, and there's the blind one. So, because we do have a blind chicken. This is the white one here. So, there's only one white one. So, and the other chickens are racist, so they pick on this one. Little Bernie, the chicken, who's no longer with us, unfortunately. What a gorgeous little chicken she was. She used to come in and join me while I was working. She would sometimes appear on live streams and hop up onto my microscope. Bob Irwin. Oh, yeah. Robert Irwin. I'll tell you what, here's a guy that's not afraid of the spotlight. For someone of his age, it's quite amazing. He pops up on our TV quite a lot too. Yeah. So the big black one is an Australorp. I know everyone's making funny double entendre giggles at the moment, me saying the big black one. But that one's an Australorp chicken, and they are a big chicken, and they also produce some pretty big eggs. Good layers. Okay, there's one. I can't be bothered changing my tip over every time, so I'm going to just try and persevere with this one with my conical tip. Anyone who knows me will know I really don't like conical tips particularly well. I just don't feel they transfer heat as well as bevel tips or chisel tips. Bing, bing, bing. Bing, bing, bing. Is he just going to leave the package and go? Let me just check. I mean, my wife is up there, but she might be in the shower for all I know. Just going to check. I have one of these ring phone thingies, so I can have a look and see if he's kind of standing there or if he's just dropped the package and gone. If he's dropped the package and gone. Oh no, that's right. My wife's picking up the package. All good. Thank you. Excuse me. I'm just going to stand up, stick this phone in my pocket, and then adjust my microphone, which is probably crackling because I'm touching it. Okie dokie. Causing car security system to prevent starts. That's a bugger. Heat set inserts in 3D printer stuff. Cool. Excellent. 3D printing is actually another really important thing when it comes to repairs. I know a lot of people use 3D printing for printing masks for cosplay or printing figurines or stuff like that, or ornamental things. I predominantly use 3D printing for repairs. Now, whether that be restorations on vintage computers where I'm replacing missing parts or damaged parts, or whether it be replacing missing or damaged things, or as obviously making brackets and cases and things for like BlueSCSIs and stuff like that. But then, yeah, I mean, replacing parts of you know, products that might be damaged, and then again keeping them going for as long as possible. And I think 3D printing is just fantastic for that. And one of the reasons why I say to everyone who's into 3D printing, if you've got a 3D printer, you're downloading models and you're printing them, that's great. But once you get into doing, you know, sort of modeling your own stuff, that is when you really unlock the power of 3D printing. Okay, so we're going to do some more drag soldering here. Coming along quite well. This conical tip's actually working quite well. Don't tell Jay from the House of Moth. Always gives me grief when I use a conical tip. Always. Oh, by the way, I don't know if Will from KMac is still here. I received your email. Thank you very much. I look forward to your package when it arrives, and I will. I look forward to seeing the goodies and what can be done with them. So, thanks again for that. I do appreciate it. I've been working very hard to try and I've got a lot of kind of project videos in the pipeline at the moment, but they take a really long time to do. And I'm trying as much as possible to just keep my YouTube output reasonably high at the moment, just trying to produce as many videos as I can. So as a result, I've been doing sort of smaller videos rather than the big ones. One that I do actually have an obligation to get out soon is one for this 3D printer behind me. I've done a lot of work on that already, and a lot of filming and a lot of script writing, and that will be coming out hopefully in the not too distant future. And it's basically on this Halo, or Halot? Is it Halo? I assume the T is silent, but maybe it's Halot. But Halo Mage S, which is this 3D printer here. It's a resin printer, and I'm doing a video designed to provide a perspective for someone who might have already been doing 3D printing in FDM printing, filament printing, and just giving them the perspective of changing across to resin, what you need to know should you decide to go from filament to resin. And I've got to say, there is a lot to know. It is different. Make no mistake. I'm going to do my best to make sure I get these all around the right way. I have done quite a lot of household repairs over the years, and I can tell you, if you are someone who does want to repair household stuff, one of the common failures are relays. So with most things these days, almost everything, where you have, like, even say something like an oven. In the olden days, in an oven, you would have a great big, like, dial switch or something on the front, and that would carry the full voltage through it because it was a great big thing. But these days, you have all these computerized control panels. And those computerized control panels can only control small voltages. So they use relays, so that you run a small voltage through a relay, and the relay closes to allow high voltage to pass through it. And they do have, it's a moving part. Anything with a moving part can fail. And this little flippy flappy thing goes backwards and forwards with an electromagnet to let the current pass through. And two things can happen to them. One, they can stop coming on, so that when the current gets passed through them, the relay doesn't close, and so then you don't get your high voltage running through. That's one thing that can happen to them. And the other thing that can happen to them is they can get stuck closed. So if the very high current one, in time, sometimes they can actually cause the copper to melt together, and then they don't come unstuck. And I have had both happen. And I can tell you, when the latter happens, as in they get stuck closed, when the latter happens in an oven, it's not good for what's in the oven at the time. But I have been able to repair our oven several times with problems that it's had. Again, saving a lot of money. We got very close to buying a new oven. We had a look, and to find one that had the same features that ours had was going to cost us well over $1,000. So it was at that point I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to look at fixing this. So I had to get a new heating element. I had to replace a relay. Relays are so cheap, I actually ended up replacing every relay in it. I thought if one's failed, there's a good chance others will. So did a bit of future proofing, took all the relays out, put all new ones in, and that oven, touch wood, has been going well ever since. Got a bit of an issue with the LED display at the front, but I can live with that. It doesn't look too crash hot, but I can still see what temperature it's reading. Yes, so Tevruden has made a very important point here with resin printing. It is a very stinky, smelly, toxic sort of hobby. You need your masks, you need your gloves, you need loads of paper towel for cleaning stuff up, and you need planning. You don't just go and grab something that's got resin all over it and say, oh, what am I going to do with this now? You set somewhere up where you can put it down you know, somewhere with a bit of paper towel or something like that, so that you got somewhere to put it down and you're not sort of standing there with something dripping resin and saying, what am I going to do with this thing? There's no denying the results from resin. Resin produces just breathtaking results in terms of resolution and precision, but that comes at a price. Some resins are worse than others. I bought some high strength E-Sun resin, and that is just the most disgusting, stinky, toxic, awful yuckiness in the world. I was so happy when I had printed what I needed to print and I could actually get rid of it, or take it out of the vat. Alright, I think we're good for another chip. We'll keep moving on. That's half. Sorry, I just bumped the microphone there. I am getting quicker at it, so I'm not necessarily going to build all 4 in this live stream here, because it could just take too long, but we'll see. Fun soldering kit that isn't just a useless blinking light, like what's all over eBay. Any recommendations? Well, it's interesting you say that, because I actually did a few videos on building kits, and I found quite a few interesting ones. So some things I can highly recommend is this here. Just going to quickly change views here. Is this here? This is a component tester. You can buy this as a kit. I did do a live stream where I built this kit, so if you have a look into I think I might even have a playlist of building kits. You can have a look at those. You can order these, I think, from AliExpress. And this is not only a fun kit to build, but it's very, very useful. It doesn't just test resistors, it tests resistors, capacitors. It gives you your ESR for capacitors. It tests transistors. Test diodes. It's a really, really useful thing. So that's a great one to build. Highly recommend that. Then I've got another one here which is just downright fun. This one here I built a while ago. And it's very basic. It's pretty easy soldering. But it's a little like gamey thing. It has a few different games in it, but really the most important one is it has Tetris. So you can sort of, I can't remember how to do it. There we go. So this, you got your Tetris sort of game. I can't remember what you press to spin it. There we go. It's watching someone else play Tetris. Tetris is just the most annoying thing in the world, isn't it? So anyhow, this is a really good fun one to build, because again, you get something at the end that you can just play with. I did a little piano. A little tiny little synthesizer piano type thing. The only downside with that one is it only did the white keys. It didn't actually have your sharps and your flats. So, but yeah, and of course I've got my wacky sunglasses as well, which I haven't even done yet. And I've got a calculator kit. I'll probably do at some stage too. But I would recommend having a look at my kit soldering videos and just seeing if there's anything there that catches your attention, because I do have links to the kits in all of them. Oh, the Bluetooth speakers. Yes, I forgot about them. They're floating around here somewhere. So yeah, they were little Bluetooth speakers, and I think they had a little light display on them as well for when it's playing sound. Picked up a Mac 2VI recently, my Christmas holiday project. Now the 2VI. Ah, yes, that's the one. See, that's Charlie. You won't find many people with 2VIs in the US because they weren't sold over there. But in Australia, they're everywhere. I can tell you that from experience, because I think I have at least 2 of them. Every now and again just get someone say, hey, are you interested in a 2VI? Oh. So the 2VI is, whoops, this is back to not right way around. The 2VI, which was the lowest spec of the 2 models that came out, 2VX being the highest spec. They use a 68030 CPU. I feel like the 68030 was getting a little long in the tooth by the time the 2VX and 2VI came out. But one of the really good things about those, they were the very first model. I mean, first of all, they were the last of the Mac 2 series. From that point on, there were no more Mac 2s. But the other is they were the first desktop Mac with a CD-ROM, option for a CD-ROM. That's really good. Okay. There are places. One of the places I have found there to be some cool kits. I mean, there are some kits on Amazon. I've bought some there, but also on AliExpress. There are some pretty cool kits on AliExpress. If you don't mind dealing with AliExpress, I've never really had any issues with AliExpress. You get, I mean, you sort of, if you're getting something that seems impossibly cheap, there's probably something wrong with it, but boop, boop, boop. This is a lot harder to solder than it should be, and the reason for that is, as I have mentioned, this board got exposed to the elements, and so we've got some corrosion on these pads, and I really should have probably cleaned this one here before I started trying to put solder on it, because it's being very stubborn. But I think we're good. I will check it, of course, but I'm pretty sure we're soldered. Yeah, we're soldered. This one I've got some wicked bridging on, so I'm just going to put some more flux on there. And some hair, apparently. Certainly not my hair, that's for sure. Because you ain't got no hair, Lieutenant Dan. There we go, that's looking good. I have a 2VX as well, so I figured why not have the pair. I couldn't agree more. You know, the 2VX was really a kind of a... Probably the reason why they sold it out here is because the Macs are always more expensive in Australia than they were in the US. So they probably had more of an appeal to get a slightly cheaper version, or, you know, a cheaper model out here. And so they had the 2VI as well as the 2VX. The 2VX was a bit faster. I think the 2VX had a floating point unit and the 2VI didn't. Might have had a socket from memory. So you could upgrade it, but I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly. It's not a computer that I actually get out and use very often. I'm very happy to have it in the collection, but some computers I'm just like, oh, I want to whip this one out and have a bit of a play today. But the 2VX is generally not, the 2VX and 2VI are generally not one that I would get out and use a lot. I'm much more likely to whip out a 2CI or a, I don't know, later 040 Mac or a compact Mac. Now, if you were going to buy some of these chips from someone who's doing what I'm doing, it'd probably end up having to be quite expensive because it's quite labour intensive doing this stuff. But you know, if you're doing them for yourself, sort of you think you can kind of treat the time like it's free. So it's like, yeah, it didn't cost me anything at all. I certainly look at it that way. I mean, unless I'm doing these things during time where I could be billing someone else, then they're costing me money. But if I'm doing it on the weekend where my time is my own, another dirty pad here. Get some more flux on that in a minute. Draggy, solder. Draggy, solder. Draggy, solder. I am going to actually give the pads of the next one I do a bit of a scrape before I stick it on, because I feel like these pads haven't been prepped properly. I've said it before and I'll say it again, when you get PCBs done, make sure you get the pads tinned, like this. See how they're all shiny silver? It gives much better protection. Now, it's my own fault that this thing got exposed to the elements. Basically, it was in a plastic bag, it fell out. So all the rest of them were in the plastic bag, this one had fallen out. And so it had just been exposed to the outside elements, not good. But if it had been tinned, I wouldn't be having as much trouble. I'm just trying to think with the 2CI and 2CX, did I ever have any professional experience with them? Because I have been using Macs professionally since 1989. So a lot of Macs have come my way, but I don't have a great deal of recollection. So my studio, the one that I was at, we had I think an SE30, we had a 2CI, I think we had a 2FX, a few others, but I don't remember specifically. They're the main ones I remember. And then the next step, the next time we upgraded, we actually upgraded to Quadras. So I don't think we ever had any 2VX or 2VI. These ones don't look as bad. Let's give them a little scrapey scrape. Alrighty then. More flux. So far I've managed to put all the chips on the right way around. I'm feeling very proud of myself. So does anyone else have any more repair stories of stuff that they've repaired around the house or cars or anything like that? I mean, it's always very rewarding to do when you're in a situation where you're thinking, oh, I'm going to have to buy a new one of these. And then you fix it and you go, no, I don't have to buy a new one. I've just saved myself a bunch of money. I've got a kettle on the fritz at the moment and it's got a bad relay. And I ordered a relay. It's like $4 something for the replacement relay. So to repair a kettle that was 100 and something bucks, because it's a fancy one, with a $4 part, it's very worth it. I don't know if this is true or not. This is something I read somewhere. It's like one of the big differences between Australia and America. And they're saying not many Americans have kettles in their home. Like ones that you plug into the mains power and heat water with. And I don't know if that's true or not. But, I mean, you will find a kettle in pretty much every home in Australia. Oh, you're being so stubborn. Stop being stubborn. There we go. No kettle, but a coffee machine. Yeah, I mean, we have a coffee machine as well, but definitely have a kettle. Cursed SE fixed from Tasmania. Awesome. What was the curse? What was wrong with it, Will? Have a kettle, though. My wife mostly juice boils eggs in it. Oh, that's a new one. Because, I mean, the kettles that we have, they all, as soon as they hit boiling point, they switch off. So you wouldn't really be able to boil an egg in it because they switch off the moment the water hits boiling temperature. I have a travel kettle. I take it with me to the US anytime I need to go there so I can make a cuppa in my hotel. Yes, well, of course, here in Australia, every hotel has a kettle in it. Every hotel. And tea-making facilities. So they'll generally have a kettle, a couple of tea or coffee cups, you'll have some instant coffee, and you'll have tea bags and some milk. So if you walked into a hotel and there were no tea-making facilities, you're not going back there. I mean, because it's just the done thing here with hotels. I'm actually going to pre-tin these pads. I think it'll just make my life a little bit easier to solder. I may end up doing that for the rest of them. I just think it will speed up the process. And the way I'm going to do that is actually with some gentle scrapage. I will start with the flux. I get my solder and I will, just waiting for this to heat up. John Kidd, hello there, John. 110 outlet voltage makes the kettle too slow, much quicker with a pot on the stove. Ah, okay, that's interesting. I hadn't even really thought about that, but yes, I guess that would definitely be the case. We're on the 240 here, which someone told me recently has actually gone down to 230. When I measure it, I get somewhere between 230 and 240, so we're both right. Switch to an induction cooktop, no kettle for me in the US. Yeah, so we have an induction cooktop as well, and I have to say I'm a huge fan of induction. Since changing over to it, I've never looked back. I love it. But I still have a kettle. It's just quick and convenient. I mean, we probably have, my wife and I maybe have 1 to 2 cups of tea a day. My wife probably has maybe 3. Because we both work from home. She works from home 3 days a week. I work from home 5 days a week. And so, definitely tea making facilities there. Also coffee, but we have like one of the proper coffee machines, the one where you grind the coffee in, you put it in the little thing and you stab it down and you put it in and it pressurizes and comes out as a shot. Because we're all coffee snobs here in Sydney and Melbourne. It's one of the reasons why Starbucks doesn't do particularly well out here, because their coffee ain't very good. Well, by our standards, I should say. I'm sure there are plenty of people that like the coffee, but I have talked about coffee on my live streams before, saying that one of the places that you can surprisingly get very good and consistent coffee here in Australia is McDonald's. They source some really good quality beans. They're very, very consistent with their making. They just do it with a very, very, procedural way of doing it. So they do it exactly the same way in every McDonald's, and they clean the equipment regularly, all that sort of stuff. So you get a very consistently good cup of coffee at McDonald's. Oh, they serve desserts. That's cool. My mains kettle boils faster than the gas stove. So my mains kettle is way faster than my last cooktop, which was it was a ceramic one. But since we went induction, if I put the induction full crank, the water definitely boils faster on the induction than it does in the kettle. But the kettle still provides the convenience of, we fill it up in the morning and we use that same water throughout the day, so we don't need to worry about refilling it and stuff like that. And you just press the button to boil and it beeps when it's boiled, and then you come and make your tea. So it's very, very convenient because it just comes to the boil, then it stops and lets you know that it's boiled. So that's the real plus of using a kettle. So desserts equals super sweet drinks. Okay, I did not know that. Espresso machine, yes, which we just call a coffee machine here. But yes, espresso machine. Just got to wait for this tip to heat up again. Do. But anyhow, I guess the point of the story is, yeah, I repaired my kettle. So, it's important. Saves us from having to buy a new one. I've repaired kettle, cooktop, oven. Done some other repairs. I'm just trying to remember what they are at this stage. But, I like keeping things running as long as possible and keeping them out of landfill. It is one of the reasons why I get so frustrated with the path that Apple is taking at the moment with their Macs. What they're doing with them is they're obviously trying to manufacture these things at a lower cost so that you can potentially buy them more easily. I mean, still expensive compared to some computers, I get that, but, you know, things like the Mac Mini now, they're selling one for $599, getting a lot of power for not much money there. But they're building these things so that they have no upgrade path. Now, of course, a lot of the time they're arguing, well, that's how we make these things so fast, and of course it's definitely a way they can make things cheaper and smaller, but it means there's no upgrade path. And what that does is that encourages the whole throw it away and buy a new one rather than upgrade it in the future. And that's very wasteful. And for a company that, you know, says that they're green, you know, that they're making stuff out of recyclable materials, if you really want to be green, the best way to be green is to just make less stuff. Instead of having to make two computers, just make one. But of course, that's not how business works. So, hello, Rudy. Welcome to the live stream. Many cook on gas, propane. Yeah, so I live in an area where there is no gas directly to the house. You can rent out large gas tanks to have on the side of the house. I used to have that for heating, but now I use reverse cycle air conditioning. But there are houses very, very close to where I live, you know, like it's in the next street over, where they do actually have gas. But for whatever reason, when this street was made, they didn't do gas. So we've only got the option for electric or tanks on the outside. The one thing we do have here, which is good, is we have fibre to the premises internet. So we've got nice fast internet here. So that's a big plus. Now I'm just going to look at this at an angle as I did before of all these chips and make sure that I don't have any bridges. And make sure that all the pins look like they're soldered. And they are looking good on this side. Don't see any bridges. And they all look like they're soldered. So I think we're looking peachy. This one did take me a while, but this is the hardest one because this is the one that did get some corrosion on it. The other ones are all squeaky clean, more or less, so I think they'll be a lot easier to build. Next thing I need to do is stick some capacitors on here, and I am going to need some 0.1 microfarad, also known as 100 nanofarad. Yeah, I need one for each chip. Now, thankfully, I have some here. I've got my cute little bag of tricks here. I don't think any of these things have my address on them. That does. I'll rip that off. Is that? Don't want to broadcast my address out on a live stream. Okie dokie. Top view. Here we go. So, just need to zoom out a switch. I am very seriously entertaining the idea of either upgrading or removing this or changing this camera that I have here. There are things I like about this camera. I like the fact that I can zoom with it. What I don't like about it is this dark thing in the bottom left-hand corner here. It's like the position of the lens in relation to where the CCD is slightly out, so you're getting this barrel effect on the image, and it also is slightly out of focus from the left to the right-hand side, and I find that a little bit frustrating. So I'm going to do one of two things. I'm either thinking of replacing the innards of this and using a different CCD and maybe altering the position so that I don't get that barrel effect, or maybe just changing cameras. But these are all bits and pieces for making BlueSCSI, so, or most of them are anyway. But from within these, I do need to find their resistors. What have we got here? Got Schmidt trigger. Hey, Schmidt. What do we got there? 10 microfarad. Oh, diodes. Resistors. Resistance is futile. How many memes have you seen with that sort of thing on electronic groups, huh? Frustrating, isn't it? You can never have enough 100 nanofarad capacitors. I'm not going to disagree with you. I've got 1206 and I've got, I think, what is it, 0802s? Something like that. 1206. There we go, 50 volt, 100 nanofarad. That'll do. And what do we got here? 47 microfarad. Keep looking, looking, looking. I feel like I had more. Resistors, resistors. Oh, here we go. 50 volt, 100 nanofarad. This is 0603. So these are little tiddly ones. These will be for the BlueSCSI. I'm not going to be using these for this. There's no need. I mean, they would work, but there's no need for me to be using teeny weeny little components. I can use big chungus ones so that they're a lot easier to work with. Dinner time. Have fun, everyone. Thank you for joining, Ray. Enjoy dinner. Many household appliance repairs are so mundane they're easy to forget. Yes, but it's good to have things working, don't you reckon? Sterry. Okay. I have gas to the house here. Winter too cold for propane. Yeah, we don't get really cold winters here, so we can get by with reverse cycle air conditioning. One of the things with reverse cycle air conditioning is it's only really effective down to a certain temperature. Once you start getting heavily into the below freezing point type area, like less than 0 Celsius, reverse cycle air conditioning stops working particularly well. We don't have that problem here. It just doesn't get that cold. So reverse cycle air conditioning for heating works really well for us here, for the sort of cold we have. Sydney cold is not, I accept it's not proper cold. I complain about it endlessly, though. The cold, that is. Okay, now my recommended way of putting little surface mount components like this on, just make sure I did grab the right ones, 50 volt, 100 nanofarad, yep, is I will usually get solder onto these pads and then use hot air to just melt them into the spot. And I'm going to probably do that here. So first thing I'm going to do is get nice big blobs of solder onto each of these pads. Better bring my fume extraction back, otherwise Jay gets upset. Foxhound477, hello. You missed a lot of chat. Let me just put it that way. Heat pumps, I must have joined at the right time. Yeah, well, heat pumps, I'm investigating a heat pump because with some heat pumps here in Australia, you can actually get them for free. There's a sort of a government rebate if you've got an existing electric, heater. If you want to change to a heat pump hot water heater, you can get them for free, depending on which model you get. I was going to go down that path. I'm planning to go down that path, but I wasn't very happy with some of the models that I investigated. Each of them sort of had an issue that I didn't I didn't really like. Are you happy with it, Max? Just curious if you're happy with your heat pump. You can see the solder's not sticking, oopsie, to these pads terribly well because of the corrosion, but it's okay. It's enough. They're making contact. The, oh God, that one's shocking. Got to clean him up. I have said this several times, but I will say it again just for anyone who has just recently joined. This particular PCB got exposed to the elements, and so it has got some corrosion on it. So it's just making soldering this one a little bit harder than it should be. Okay, so we've got solder on all of those pads now, and then the next bit is I just get a little bit of our good friend Mr. Flux, plonk him on there, and then grab our components, which are here in the little thing. I'm going to need 8 of them, so I'll take 8 of them out now. And then I'll probably lose some. When I actually go to do it, I'll only find 7. And then it'll be like, where did they go? And I'll blame it on the capacitor fairies, like I normally do. 5, 6, 7, 8. It could always be that I just don't know how to count. That's always possible. Right, so what I'll generally do is plonk the component there. Sorry, this way around so I can hold it from the sides. Hello, chicken. I get my hot air station. I have it on a pretty high temp, but I have it on a relatively low air output. So I've got this running at about 55% of its air output because I don't want to blow this little component away. So I hold them in position. I could have used the next size down for this. As I say, this is a 12. Sitting very proud, isn't it? I really should have gone a smaller size. I'm worried about that making contact there. That's like really iffy. So this is these are 1206s. Probably should have the next size down, 805s. Let's see if I've got any in my little book here. I've got to fit. Yeah, I've used them all. Yeah, I really should have got the next size down. I got little teeny ones. I might be better off with that. Oh, I do have some. But I'm not sure if I have enough. Because I need a lot. Let's see how we go with the little tiddly ones, shall we? That might be easier. So they're in here. The little 06 ones. I'll have to buy some of this size. 47. Sorry, I have to find them again. Sorry about that, folks. I haven't had a chance to put all these into little containers yet, so they're all just sort of floating around in little plastic bags. It's with the Mac 84 method of storing things. This 4.7, this is the perfect size, these ones, but I don't need them. 50 volt, 100 nanofarad. So these are little teeny weeny ones. These might be better suited. Yeah, you never have enough of those. I've got to go out and get some 080 whatevers of these ones. If anyone is wondering what those numbers mean, I imagine most of you do, but if anyone is wondering when they say, oh, it's a 1206 size, it's actually in inches. It's 0.12 of an inch in length and 0.06 of an inch in width. So it's 1206 width and length. There are metric equivalents, but the inch ones definitely seem to be the most common. So even here in Australia, where we have been metricated since 1966, people still will generally refer to the sizes of these caps in their inch measurements. The Mac 84 method, it works until it doesn't. Alright, so this guy is much, much, much smaller than we need, but I just feel it's probably going to be a little bit safer when it comes to these bridges. I don't need anywhere near as much solder with the component this size, but never mind. Because I would just see how close, I'll just point out, the problem with here, just here, between this little via and this ground, we don't want them making contact. And that wide component was just making solder blob out there. And I just think that's a lot safer. Much safer. And prototype, and it's out of my skill range. How would I find someone to help out? Leon, I know I'm mispronouncing that, sorry. Leon. I think that was right. This is like the whole ESR equivalent series resistance thing again, where I'm just seem incapable of remembering the correct pronunciation of your first name. But anyhow, that's another thing. That's my fault, not yours. The best thing to do would be to get onto a forum such as Tinker Different for that. On Tinker Different, there are lots and lots of people who do that sort of stuff, that create their own projects, create their own things. There might even be a link to Tinker Different in the description of this. Join up to that forum, ask the question in there. You are almost definitely likely to find someone in there who's going to say, yep, I can help with that. Because that sort of thing's going on all the time. So you take someone in the chat here at the moment, someone like Will from KMac, so he's building PCBs all the time. I don't know if it's the sort of thing that he would be wanting to take on. I'm certainly not going to just presume that. But, you know, if you ask the question on a tech forum like Tinker Different, you've got a much better chance, I think, of finding someone there who will say, yep, I can help you with that. I got the skills. I certainly don't. It's one of the things I've really wanted to do, but I've just never really got into it. Steve was doing a bit of work with that recently. How did you go with that, Steve? You were looking at making a new bus card, weren't you? Just curious to know whether you how far you got with that as part of your learning experience. Still haven't made the PCBs yet. Have to finish doing the schematic. Another unfinished project. Oh, tell me about it, Steve. You and I both. The frustrating thing is so many of the projects that I have, you know, in the pipeline, I just sort of keep thinking, oh God, this is going to be so good when it's finished. But, you know, it's often that last 10 or 20% that's the hardest. You can kind of get a really long way, and then you just have trouble getting over that last bit. Like a little bit of flux on that. So these kind of look a little bit funky with these tiny little components. They really should be 080, whatever it is. I can't remember. 0804? 0806? No, it's 1206. 0805, maybe? I can't remember what the second number is. They would have been the perfect size for this, but I don't have any. And these little 0602s, they fit on there perfectly. 0603s, sorry. I should remember that stuff. Really should. But I'm getting old, you know. 0805. Yeah, there we go. Got there eventually. All right, now, apart from the rather cruddy-looking pads down the bottom here, which I might just try and improve a little. Ow, hot. What I don't like about these PCBs is they've got these massive vias and the solder falls through onto the other side. And you find that all this solder that you're putting on is now blobbing up on the other side. Don't like it? I don't like it. Okay. Not too bad, not too bad, not too bad. That side I think will be okay. Once I get that into the ultrasonic cleaner, I think that side's going to look alright. Maybe just a little bit of these blobby ones. So this was definitely the hardest one to build. There's no doubt about that. With all that corrosion on it, it did definitely make that job a lot more challenging. This is now going to spend some quality time in the ultrasonic cleaner to get rid of all that excess flux. And once it's clean, I'll also check it again under the microscope to make sure there aren't any little hidden bridges that I didn't spot. But I think we should at least take a moment to marvel in one complete RAM sim. Ow, that table's hot. Ow, hot. So, yeah, there it is. There are other options available for 2FX RAM sims out there. I know that Kai Robinson does actually have on his GitHub page the option for 4MB RAM sims for a 2FX, where you can get Gerbers and the bill of materials from that. As I say, I have no idea why this one is discontinued. I don't know why Doug Brown does not have this on his website, on his GitHub. He produced these, he made them available. People got the PCBs made, some people did, and then it just disappeared. For whatever reason, he's not happy with these. Maybe these chips aren't available anymore. It could be as simple as that. But, yeah, we've got one of those made. Now, before I do another one of these, I'm just going to take a moment to do one of these. So these are the ones made by K Koba, Keros Mac Mods, and Satanic Mac Club. You can see here, Satanic Mac Club. And these are quite a cute little RAM sim because they're 4MB each one. You can make them with RAM off other chips. And they've also got a little light on the back. Not as fancy as the light on the blinkety-blink ones that Will from KMac makes, where they actually have a little blinky light on them that shows you when they are reading and writing. This is just a power light, basically. But I have a bunch of different coloured LEDs, and I sort of, each time I make these, I make them with a different light colour. Didn't you do this once already? Yes, I did. I actually did a pre-recorded video on these. So yeah, I mean, you could obviously just sort of sit and watch that if you want to, but I thought I would just do one of these just to break up the monotony of doing these ones. I don't know if it is breaking up the monotony doing one RAM for another RAM, but you know, who knows. So this is where I'm taking my RAM from. I'm taking it from these 64MB sims that were around for the sort of 7000 series Macs and for all the Mac clones that were around at the time, the power computing ones and the Super Mac ones and all the others. Air conditioner's coming on now, I'm getting hot. And so these ones here, I just basically RAID these chips and I stick them onto here. I only need two because I don't need a parity chip. And then we just also need a little capacitor. What I do like about the way Kay did the silk screen printing thing on this is he's put everything on here that you need to know. So you don't need really any additional instructions for out of focus. Come on. There we go. It's a bit better. So he tells you, there's your two DRAM chips there. Here's the parity, optional. He's got that there. He's got what size capacitors you need written on the silk screen, 0.1 microfarad. He's telling here we've got a 331 resistor needs to go on there. And then here's where the LED diode needs to go on there. So by putting all of that on the screen printing, it just makes life really easy. This is something that could have been done with this. It's not like you have to pay extra for the screen printing. It could have been done with a little label on here showing these are 0.1 microfarad instead of me having to hunt around and find out. He could have put down the information about the chips that were needed there on the screen print. And I say to anyone who is doing these sorts of self-build projects, don't just presume that everyone's going to know this stuff. Put it on the silk screen, and so, you know, I mean, people have got all the instructions they need there. We now have 16 megabyte blink also. Yes, I remember you talking about 16 megabyte. That's fantastic. Okay, so let's grab some chips. I mean, I might just make 2 to start off with these. I won't make all 4. Let's start off with some chips. I'll get my thing here. There we go. I only need, I mean, to do all 4, I only need 8 chips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've just got to whip all these off first. I'm going to be putting new capacitors on, but I could raid these capacitors. If I wanted to, I could grab the capacitors from these. Each one of these has a capacitor under it, I think. Oh, it's on the other side. So the capacitors are on, all of the capacitors are on this side. But I could take those capacitors off and use them, but I've got so many of these, I'll just use new ones. And for this, I'm going to turn up the heat, the airspeed. It'll heat these up quicker, allow me to get them off. And I'll take them off all in one go because once the board gets warm, it makes getting the, it takes a while to heat up for the first one, but getting the second and third one off becomes a lot quicker. You've got minus 60 here. That tells us that is 60 nanosecond RAM. Smaller the number, faster it is. Each one of these chips holds 2 megabytes. Interesting thing when you are looking up specs of RAM, they usually tell you the amount they hold, but they tell you in bits, not in bytes. So when you have a bit, that is something that can be either a 0 or a 1. And they'll generally say, oh, this will hold X amount of bits. And so if you're then trying to work out how many, how big the chips are in terms of kilobytes, you've got to then work on the presumption of, say, 8 bits per byte. So you take that bits quantity, divide it by 8, and then that'll give you how many bytes it'll hold, and then you can work it out into kilobytes, megabytes, whatever the case may be. It's just something to be on the lookout for, because I've seen people get caught out from it before, where, sort of they're going, oh, that's a 256 K chip. And it's like, no, it holds 256 bits, not bytes. So just to keep that in mind. All about the information here. These are a beautifully designed PCB. We have to really give credit to Kay for the work he did on this. And the reason I say that is we've got these incredibly long pads here. They are really, they just make life so easy when it comes to putting these chips on. They just, that way around. See how much space we have hanging out the top and bottom? And that just makes soldering PLCs so much easier. So, hats off to Kay for the work he did on that. I need to probably clean the solder off the bottom of these chips. Doesn't take too long. I generally just put these in my little chip holder here. They need to be kept still. It just makes life a lot easier. And then get a bit of solder WICK. If I can find some. I had some. It was just here. Bought heaps lately. So I've been going through it. I was doing work on, whenever you're doing work on the old vintage Macs, and you're potentially having to do removal of through-hole components, like I was doing with a Macintosh 512K, you really have to go through a lot of this WICK. But I just want, they don't need to be spotlessly clean, But what I want is I want to make sure that when the chip sits down on the PCB, it sits flush. And just makes soldering it on much, much easier. I've ended up with an interesting predicament here. I've ended up with accidentally 2 chips soldered together. So I'm going to have to hit them with hot air again to kind of separate them. There we go. Do you like PLC sockets, or are they annoying? I'm fine with PLCC sockets. I've got no issue with them. I only have a handful here. But yeah, I've got no issue with PLCC sockets. Take advantage of the fact that PLCCs can be socketed. Go to... How are we going here? Sitting on about 38 viewers here, so we're definitely... I've got people that are going like, oh my goodness, he's just doing the same thing. And there is actually something else I could do if people would actually, if they're getting bored with me building RAM sims, there is something else I can do. I've got a Macintosh SE 30 analog board, which is giving me some image issues. And one piece of information that I got is, oh, the cause for that is this component here. So I'm curious about actually replacing that component from another board to see whether it does fix the problem or not. One of the things that does tend to happen when you're looking at books about problems with the old Macs, like, for example, Macintosh Repair and Upgrade Secrets or the Dead Mac Scrolls by Larry Pina, he talks about a lot of the failures that can happen on these things, but he's talking about failures that were occurring at the time. And because although some of those failures are still occurring, a lot of the failures we're seeing now are different to the failures at that time because we've got components that would have not normally failed are now failing because of age. And so, you know, I mean, in that instance, you know, you kind of have to look at it and think, well, yeah, maybe it is that component. Or maybe it's something else along that circuit that's causing the failure that would not have normally failed in the day, but now because it's old, it is failing. Just, you know, just thoughts. Food for thought. Thought food. Going out for a yummy dinner tonight. Really looking forward to that. Catching up with some friends. Should be a good night. I'm going to a restaurant with BYO. People not familiar with that. Here in Sydney in particular, it's not everywhere in the world, but here in Sydney in particular, it's quite expensive for restaurants to kind of get licensed. So in other words, to be able to sell alcohol. So over here, you'll have restaurants that will serve alcohol and restaurants that don't. And the ones that do serve alcohol, they need to get an alcohol license, and there's costs involved with that. So what those places do is a lot of those places, they say, because they're licensed, you can't bring your own alcohol. Now the problem with that is that these restaurants generally mark up the alcohol to an absolutely criminal extent. Now it's not really criminal. I appreciate restaurants are struggling to keep afloat at the moment. It's a bit difficult, but you know, you might find a bottle of wine that you can go to the shop and, you know, go down to your local liquor store and you can buy that bottle for $12 and they'll have it on the menu for $60. And it's like, I can tell you every single mouthful of that wine that you know is $12 and you paid $60 for, it's you know, it's hard to swallow. But some restaurants, what they do is they will say you can bring your own alcohol, but we'll charge you a fee per bottle or per person that's drinking alcohol, and they'll provide you with glasses and stuff like that. And yeah, so I generally prefer restaurants that are BYO, so I can bring my own alcohol and not get charged an exorbitant markup on cheap bottles of wine. BYOB, okay, yeah, here it's just BYO. So, and anyhow, the restaurant I'm going to tonight is BYO, which makes me happy because I can bring my own wine that I like to drink. I don't have to just choose off their menu. Yeah, so it's going to be good food, it's going to be good wine, and it's going to be good company. So definitely looking forward to that tonight. I'm just going to make sure the topic of this conversation doesn't just stay on cricket, because mainly the two males in the group do like their cricket. We don't want to alienate anyone just by talking about cricket and nothing else, because it is cricket season here in Australia at the moment. There is cricket on, I think, right this minute. I could be wrong, but I suspect there's cricket on somewhere. We have the women's BBL match, women's BBL, that's Big Bash League, on at the moment. And we've got Pakistan out here, and we've been playing them in the one-day internationals. We've got India coming out for Test cricket later on. So great time for cricket. Okay. I would like to find a clamp like that, but can't find one. Yeah, me neither. I feel incredibly lucky that I got that clamp when I did, because I have never been able to find one like it. I love it. And if I do ever find someone selling them, I'll put them up on my website, because, it's, whenever I use it, people go, "Oh, where do I get one of those?" Like, well, I can tell you where I got it. They don't have it there anymore, but not a game I even want to understand. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. I feel the same about that American football thing. And actually, I feel the same about Australian rules football as well. But cricket, I am a big fan of. Wasn't always. I was introduced to cricket by a school friend of mine. Shout out to Jimmy. And he used to say, "Oh, God, I hate cricket." And he was like, "I really thought cricket would be something you'd enjoy." And I'm like, "Why?" He said, all the statistics stuff. All the maths that they put into it, with calculating totals and all this sort of stuff." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So anyhow, I sat down and watched a bit, and oh man, I just fell in love with it. Love with it. Nowadays, I can watch cricket anytime I want, because I have these streaming services where I can watch cricket going on in the other parts of the world. So I can just say, I feel like watching some cricket. Here's some cricket to watch. Yeah, rugby. I don't mind a bit of rugby. We out here in Australia, we have both rugby and rugby league. Rugby league is a variation on rugby. Rugby league is definitely more popular out here, certainly in some states anyway. And I enjoy rugby league, but I enjoy rugby also. Not a big fan of soccer, or what the English would call football. I appreciate the skill, totally, but just not particularly into it. I can definitely, I'm never going to criticise someone for enjoying that game, because I totally get it, but it's just not for me. No, you're thinking of lacrosse, Foxhound. Cricket is basically what your game of baseball was based on. So cricket is a game where the ball is bowled from a bowler to a batsperson, and that batsperson hits the ball as far as they possibly can, or sometimes strategically place it, so it's not always as far as they can, but and then once the ball has been hit with the bat, they then run between two wickets, which are pretty fair distance apart from each other, and they run from there to there to there to there, and that each time they cross, each time they get from one end to the other, that's called a run, and the idea is to get as many runs as you can. They use a bat which is flat on one side, so it allows them to do a lot of ball placement. They can swivel the bat in different directions to make the ball go in the different direction they want. But there's a lot to know about it. It's not, there's quite a, I mean, you can just sit there and watch them hit the ball, but there's a lot of language and stuff that's used in it where it's like, what the hell is he talking about? But it's a very, very popular sport here in Australia, I can tell you that. So cool that the boards that were manually mounted had all the indications for the components. Yep, I know. It's, as I say, it's a sport that was invented by the English, and of course that's why it ended up here, because we were colonised by the English, and it did end up in the US, but then the US people then modified it, turned it into baseball. Whoops. Boop. I've just decided to do all 4 of these because it's only 8 chips that have to go down, and they're going down so easily. These pads, you know, there's no corrosion on them. They're all tinned, so just getting the solder to stick is just super easy. One corner, then the next corner. So these are a dream to build. I expect the remainder of the 2FX ones that I build will be a dream to build as well, but because they're not corroded. I've been half entertaining the idea of building and selling mini Macs. 3D printing cases and building little mini Macs with, Raspberry Pis in them. Little, either a Raspberry Pi Nano or a Pico or something like that, and just getting, just having See, the Pico, the problem with that is there's not much RAM. So you can really only replicate like a 128K Mac. But if you go with a Nano you can actually replicate a 68030 Mac with pretty good speed, I might add. I think it's a Nano. Always get those sort of names confused. Oh, come on. I think I've got a little bit too much solder on this one. Blah. There we go. There we go. Do those around the right way? Good. The worst thing in the world is when you just finish soldering a great big chip and then you realise you've mounted it around the wrong way or something like that. It's worse with through-hole, though. I soldered on a PDS slot. Just think about that for a second. A PDS slot. Think about how many pins there are and a PDS slot from an SE30. I soldered on a PDS slot back to front. And I can tell you what, I'm never taking it off. I'm just going to get a Dremel and shave off the end so that it fits on. Because I am not desoldering all those pins. Nuh-uh. Just about everyone I know has done it. Soldered something on back to front at some stage. It's very easy to do. It's not like I think, oh man, what a rookie mistake or something. Because absolute bloody, hardcore professionals, who solder every day can still end up with that lapse in concentration and then accidentally soldering on something backwards. So I'd always say to people, if you do happen to do it, don't beat yourself up about it. I love drag soldering when everything's clean and shiny. It's so shiny. It's just so easy. It's just a dream. Just floats around on the flux. Forms just beautiful shaped little blobs of solder. Generally doesn't bridge, except for that spot there. I spoke too soon. Don't you bridge. I watched Alien Romulus. Anyone else watch Alien Romulus? I watched it the other day. I wasn't very impressed. Right, 0.1 microfarad. Now, we might be able to use the big ones that I got for this. Are they still out? Yeah. Let's see if I can fit one of these big fatties on here. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7. Should be another one in here. Where's 8? Oh, I must have lost it. Or threw it away. Or let's just see. Is it a safe thing for me to stick a great big 1206 onto these? Ah, piece of cake. That's made for a 1206. Laughing. Laughing. After the fart, folks, been a pleasure. Oh, thank you very much for joining, Mark, adding 64-bit guy. I was thinking saying you can get like new black and white CRTs, like the same as Sony portable TV flat CRT. I'm sort of, I haven't done it yet, but I have a project that I'm sort of have started working on where I'm going to be using an LCD in place of a CRT for a vintage computer restoration type thing. It does make life a lot easier being able to use LCDs, I can tell you that. Oh, I don't need that one. I only need to do the capacitors next to where there's a chip. If there's no chip, no need for a capacitor. Let's get solder on all these. Blip, 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 blip. Oh, did I get resistors? God, I hope I got resistors. I think I bought resistors. If I didn't buy resistors, I'm going to feel stupid. You don't need the resistors on this board for the RAM itself. The resistors are simply for the LED light. And so you can have the LED light on the other side of this board. So about 331, which is what? Is that 331? Is it 33? No. No, hang on. Someone will tell me. Someone will know what 331 means. It's the code on the package of the resistor, but I can't remember what resistance it actually is. Someone will know. I like LED lights too. The Fixer 69. Hello there. So let's see if I did actually buy some resistors that are suitable. That's capacitors. 4.7K. Oh, that's an interesting one. That's a fuse. That's some capacitors. That's capacitors. What's this one? 470 ohm. Oh. 1 kilo ohm. 110 ohm. Keep looking. 330 milliohms. Okay, let's look that up. Is it 330 milliohms a month? That doesn't seem like much, does it? It'll say on the package. That's 330. Did I buy the wrong sort? I wouldn't put it past me. Have a look at the packing slip. I mean, maybe I needed 330 milliohm, but it sounds like an unusual one. Resistors, 1 kilo ohm, 4.7 ohm, 2.0, no. 110 ohm. Resistor, 330 milliohms. I've got this horrible feeling that I've got 330 milliohms instead of, I think they're supposed to be 33 ohms. I have this horrible feeling that I ordered the wrong thing. I may not have. They may be needed for something else, and I may have forgotten to get these ones. It's not the end of the world. Resistors are cheap and readily available. But it just may mean I can't finish this if I don't have 331s. Just going to look up, make sure, 331, what that is. I've got a little app that I use called Resistor Toolkit. I highly recommend it. It's very, very handy if you're someone who doesn't like memorizing these things. So, 3-digit code, 330 ohms. Yep, so it's 330 ohms that I need. I will have some here. It's just a question of how many I have. Just got to find... Here we are. Just change view here. So you can buy these things here for quite cheap on eBay and that. And they're just like a selection of resistors. So... let's keep going here. That one's empty. So that's probably the one I wanted. 150 ohm. 180... 270, 300, 330. There we go. So I do have a bunch of 330s here, so we're all pretty good. I'll just check that's the number. No, that's 3300. Oh, that's a 4-digit. Yeah. So 4-digit code. Just double check. 4-digit code. 330 is 330 ohms. Yep. So that's what we need, 330 ohms. So we're good. Everything is fine. We're fine here. How are you? So we need we need one for each one, so I only need 4 of these. There we go. Right. Let's start sticking some of these little components on. Hello, chicken. I've got a visit from a little white chicken. All right. Boom, 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 boom. Oops. Change view, please. Change view, please. We don't need to see the top of your microscope. Not a lot of fun there. A little bit more flux here. We'll be able to see that solder will creep up around the sides of the component rather than just sitting underneath it like that. Looks a lot better. better. Good. And I'm going to, in a minute, I'm going to let everyone else decide what colour LED I'm going to use for this one. I'm going to put it to a poll and see what everyone says. I'm not actually going to stick a poll up. That'll just take too long. I'll just ask people. I feel like I've got one. I've had a capacitor fairy robbery going on because I'm sure I got out 8 of these, and I've got down one. But there's a more likely chance that I just didn't get out 8. I got out 7. It's the most logical reason. Out. There we go. Purple. I'm not sure if I have purple, but we'll have a look. We'll have a look. I've got a little set of multicolour, so we'll just see, and then I'll let you guys have a decide. Okay, well there we go. That's all of the business side done. Just going to check my work because it's always a good idea to do that. Ding 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 ding. Yep, good. And then this is the LED side here. So I'm going to get my little LED collection here. So this is a stop you. I got this, bought this from, probably just AliExpress or something like that. And it's an SMD LED kit. And what it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 colours and 4 different sizes. So that's a little matrix there. So here are the colours that I have available. I have red, yellow, blue, green, white, and orange. So you've got orange. Okay, we've got 1 vote, 2 votes for orange, 1 for blue. Keep them votes coming, people. We've got red and blue. Okay, we're not going to do it like the US states. So at this stage, orange has it. Because you're only allowed to choose one colour. Only one colour. Oops. Thought I broke it, but I didn't. Okay, so we've got 2 votes for red, 2 votes for orange, 1 vote for blue. So we've got a hung vote here, I'm afraid, people. We need 1 more person to come forward. Still only got 2 votes for red, 2 votes for orange. Someone else has to come forward. Okay, there we go. We've got an orange. We're doing orange, and it's probably a good idea to do orange because I've never done any with orange before. So here's my orange LEDs here. We can just grab them. I've used one. I don't know what I use it for, but I've used one. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. There they all are. And we can... I'll just pop this back in here. Okay. Oh, no, we've got 4 for orange now. Right. Now, LEDs have 2 different sides. Wasn't that? The thingode and the thingode. And the dot here, this dot, I'm pretty sure, is meant to be pointing to the line. I think it's meant to be that way around. Easy way for me to check is grab ones that I've built before. Super easy. There we go, this one's got some that I've built before. Here's one I prepared earlier. I couldn't get some blue LEDs for my BlueSCSI recently. I ended up having to get like amber or something like that. Dot in the box. Dot in the box. I'll double check. I mean, I'm sure he knows. Yep. Oh, I put smaller ones on this one. Didn't put 1206s. I wonder why I did that. Never mind. Okay, so, yep. Got it round the right way. It goes with this little dot here pointing to the line, by the looks of it. I'll show you. This is one I built earlier. Here's one I prepared earlier. And you can see that I used smaller LEDs for this one, but you can see the little dots. Geez, that's barely making contact. But you can see the little dot there at that end is going to the line. So we will presume that is correct. I can get my voltage here, drop this down to probably 3 volts, and I can grab these little probe-rooney things here. We can test it out. Oh, I flipped it over. That way? No. There we go. Oh, you can't see it. Whee! It doesn't look very orange, does it? It looks more red. But that's okay. One thing I can tell you about LEDs, if they don't work, you got it around the wrong way. I actually have a flux from Styri, which is specifically designed for doing LEDs. I'm not sure how different it is, but we can grab it. It's actually a really nice flux. I really enjoyed using it. Oopsie. I'll just have to find it. I don't know what was specifically different about it for LEDs, but all I can tell you, it was a very, very nice flux to use. Had a nice consistency, nice colour, nice smell, and I dropped it on the floor. Here it is. Whoa. Old man noises, old man noises, old man noises. Oh, life's a struggle, isn't it? So with LEDs, I tend not to use the hot air. I just worry about damaging the plastic on them. And so what I'll do is I'll just flux up. I'll get some solder on the end of the iron. Iron's gone to sleep. That's how long it's took me. And just do that. There we go. That's all that's needed. Don't need too much heat. Don't need too much time. Just get in, get out. She's soldered. Doo-doo. I will be probably wrapping up this stream very, very shortly because it is my lunchtime and I need to eat. Get me some yummy food. And to anyone who does do a little bit of electronics tinkering and stuff, I do highly recommend buying these little, what do you call them, like packs that you can buy of components, whether it be LEDs, capacitors, resistors. You know, you can get these little bundle packs where you get a whole bunch of different sizes, all in a little book or in a little bag or something like that. Really, really handy to have when it comes to doing projects, and then you're suddenly like, oh, I need a so-and-so resistor. And then you can just look through your little book and you go, ah, yep, got one. And they're actually really inexpensive. They don't really cost much at all to get a whole big, you know, booklet of hundreds of different components with maybe, I don't know, 20 to 50 of each one, something like that. Phone was ringing, number that I do not recognize. Guess what that means? It means I don't answer it. And if they don't leave a message, then I know that it's probably a scam. Or a call center or something stupid. Right, so that's all of those. The only thing that I then do with these, I discussed this before, is I put a little bit of solder on these pads because they are generally a little bit thinner than the original Sims. And what is the difference in the flux for LED or else? I do not know. It probably explains on their website. But all I can say is it's a really nice flux to use. So I'll generally get... I'll show you what I do here from a top-down view. It's probably easier to demonstrate it this way. So I get this solder like this, hold it along the pins there, and then I literally just run the iron hot right down the end. Like that. And then I just go backwards and forwards, make sure that it's all evenly distributed, all nice and blobby, they look good. I don't have any odd-shaped ones. And then they're done. Lovely little blobbies. Have a look at those under the scope now, you can see. Three little blobs. Nice little blobs on each little pad. Okay, what do we got here? I found a 100-foot Ethernet cable and thought, perfect, I can use this. Then realised it only had 4 to 5 wires in it. Realised the date on the package was 1997. Wow. Now, you can still use that for, I think, up to 100 base T. Because only, I think there's only 4 wires used in 100 base T, but you can't use it for 1000 base T. I think that's right. You could certainly use it for 10 base T. I used to actually wire, when I used to do wiring at the company I used to work for, I used to only bother doing 2 of the pairs because for the speed of internet we were using, or sorry, speed of Ethernet we were using, it didn't need those other wires. But I can't remember. I think it was just 10 base T? Not sure. It'd be good for security system cables, Steve, if you want it. You're running any sensors and cameras and stuff. Generally only need 4 wires for that. I think you only need 4 wires for that. 2 for power, 2 for the little sensor. You might have another 2 if you're using a tamper sensor. 100 uses 4 wires. There we go. Thank you. That's what I thought. but I just didn't want to go out and just say stuff authoritatively that I wasn't 100% certain about. But yes, so you can use it for 100 base T. So if you're setting up a network for all your vintages, you could use it for that, Steve. Mind you, we don't really need to set up networks for our vintages anymore, do we? Because we've all got this this new wireless technology that they've got on them BlueSCSIs and ZuluSCSIs with the Pico. Right, that is 4 sims done. I will probably test this and then we will call it a day. I'm going to just give it a bit of a clean. I'm not going to give it a proper thorough clean. It'll get done in the ultrasonic cleaner. But at least just get some of the worst of this gunk off. Wireless never catch on. Tell that to Greg Rutke. We used to have these running jokes on the Mac Yak show back in those days, where the same joke would just get reused over and over again. And one of those jokes that was reused over and over again was how bad Greg Rutke's internet connection was. So when he would be joining the live stream, he would often have a really poor quality picture, or he'd keep on dropping out and stuff like that. And it was because he used everything was Wi-Fi. Didn't have any cabled connections in the place, and was always making excuses for why he couldn't use cabled Ethernet. And so, yeah, as I say, that was just like a long-running joke. Some of those long-running jokes got a little bit tired towards the end there, but that's another story. Oh, Dana is here. Hello there, Dana. Where have you been hiding? Oh, it's Friday Night Tights night, isn't it? Probably been watching Friday Night Tights. Or Drew Blood, yeah, that was another one. The Grudy video had blood in it. That was another one of the long-running jokes. Another one of the long-running jokes was, you guys may not know this, but I'm into ham radio. Speaker wire so I can rewire my entertainment center. Also Friday Night Tights. Okay. Well, did you find the wire? Did you search high enough and low enough? Right, that's enough. That's enough. Good enough for testing. Give it a proper clean afterwards. I have, for obvious reasons, I do need to use Wi-Fi because, you need Wi-Fi for your phone, you need Wi-Fi for your, sort of a lot of the modern Macs now they don't have a connection for cabled Ethernet, so you use Wi-Fi. So I have three routers, well, 3 Wi-Fi routery thingies. Got one down here in the shed, but that is connected to the house via a cable. So this is like the Wi-Fi I have in this shed is connected to a cable to the main hub or switch, and then I've got another one in my living room, and then I've got another one in my office, and so that pretty much serves the area really well. All right, now this is the fun bit where we get to turn this into 4 separate sims. We go wee and wee and wee and wee. There we go. That's very rewarding. It's a lovely thing doing that. So I am going to do a quick test of this RAM. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to sit here and diagnose it, but I probably should check at least that I haven't got bridges anywhere. I don't think I checked that at any stage. Bridges. But I've got my little. I'll just grab one of my SE30s here that I know works. I'll pop these sims into it, and we'll see if it starts up. Okay, looks good. Get rid of my toothbrush up here. So I'm going to need my fancy little thing here. There we go. This is my little thing. Oh, you know what I don't have? I don't have a screen, but that's okay. We can still test if it chimes. That's the important thing. So I shall grab this here. This is the first thing we'll do is check and make sure this works, because if it doesn't work, then we won't use this one. I need a speaker. I know there's one floating around on the desk here. There it is. This is the one with the hole in it, eaten by some critters. I got it that way. They're not my critters. They were someone else's critters. Then we need to set this at 12 volts. I've got this device that I bought recently on eBay. It's a thing called an unmouse. It's a ADB device for, it's like a trackpad, a very early variation of a trackpad. It's very, very bulky and stupid. But anyhow, I picked it up for quite cheap. It wasn't on eBay, it was on Facebook. The power supply is a US power supply. It only runs on 110 volts. So I'm like, okay, no worries. Well, it's no worries. I'll just buy an Australian power supply. I have a look at the thing, and the thing uses plus and minus 12 volts. Now, the power supply supplies 5 volts as well, but it doesn't use the 5 volt rail. So I don't need to worry about that. But I do need plus and minus 12 volts. And I figured the easiest way to do that is to probably just get one of these Pico ATXs. Because these do, it gives you a 5 volt, but it gives you a plus and minus 12, I'm pretty sure. And I'll just use that to power the unmouse. Oh, do you want to hear the unmouse joke? Oh yeah, it's one for the ages. I said, I've got too much mouse in my life at the moment. So I'm going to unmouse. Yeah, it's funnier the second time, isn't it? I think what I said is something like I got this unmouse just at the right time because there's just too much mouse in my life right now. I think I said that. Now, what were these? These were the capacitors. These were the little tiny capacitors I was using that worked really well. And okay, so I'm delaying here because I've just got to get the power connected to my power supply like this, and that's connected like this. So oh, it's already going. Okay, so this one, what happened? Okay, this one's actually complaining. It's giving me the bad, sad Mac chime. It's very quiet because this speaker is rogered. There we go. The timing is great. I've been feeling so weighed down by mouse lately. It's good to feel. It'll feel good to unmouse. There you go. I know. It's just awesome. Okay, got a nice chime. You can barely hear it. I'll put it right up to the mic. Hope you were able to hear that. But so we did get a chime from that, so that's great. So now I'm going to take these ones out and I'm going to put in the ones I just mated it. And we will hope that they work. And then I can walk around with my head held high saying, I made something today. Might even go and tell the neighbours, I made something today. I will move the camera so you can see the lights, because the lights should come on regardless, unless I put them on backwards, which of course is always possible. Alright, just going to do this. That's an interesting sound, isn't it? Now the lights come on. There's my orange lights. Aren't they pretty? But we've got a weird sound coming out here. It's just like it's halfway stuck in a sad Mac chime. Never had that before. There is an issue that I have also had with these RAM sims where I take the RAM off it and make these. I have had some that have had failed chips on them. And I've actually had to go through and check one chip at a time. What I do is I have these good ones and I just swap them out until I found which one is the bad sim, and then I just take both chips off and replace them. But you can't just put 16 megabytes in the first 4 slots. I just did though! Ah, there we go. Here we go. Just making poor contact with the slots. Very, very common thing with the RAM on these old plastic slots. There are always problems with making that bad contact. Yeah, so that I've got a nice chime. So I don't know what the would actually say in terms of the RAM measurement. I don't think I think I took my HDMI cable up to the house, so I can't check. So I can't actually check what the RAM is, but we did get a Happy Mac chime, and that's all I really care about. Thumbs up, people. So I think probably what I'll do at this stage, just for everyone's sanity, I'll probably wrap things up. I apologise if anyone was hoping for something a little bit more interesting than building RAM, but it is one of the things that I had to do, and so I thought may as well come down here and do it live stream at the same time. I still have 3 of these TWEEZERS RAM sims to make. There's the first one I made. Very difficult, this one, because there was a lot of corrosion on it. These ones I do expect to be a lot easier to build, so I've got to build the rest of those. It's going to be fun. And then I will be able to give my TWEEZERS, which was given to me as a gift by a viewer. I will be able to get my TWEEZERS running with, what is that, 64 megabytes of RAM, which I think is pretty impressive. I know that the TWEEZERS that we used to have at the company that I used to work at when we had a TWEEZERS, 8. That's all it had. Couldn't afford any more than 8. You know, take that thing up to 64 megabytes back then. You'd mortgage your house to have to do that. That was crazy. You wouldn't be doing that. So yeah, we just had to get by with 8 back then. That was just how it was. So, one question. Did Jay ever show up for this stream? Yes, he did. He did briefly show up for this stream. Not long. I knew he'd gone away, so that was when I started saying all horrible things about him. So, you know, because he wouldn't be able to reply. But no, he turned up. He did turn up just for a very little bit, sort of probably towards the beginning of the live stream. So anyhow, I will probably head off now and get myself some food. I want to thank everyone for joining the live stream today, and anyone who is watching this on the replay, thank you for watching it. Please feel free to leave any comments you have in the chat about anything. As I said, in this one I had pretty much a bit of a, I was certainly trying to keep a bit of a rolling theme going on about DIY repairs, which I think is a really important thing. I just strongly encourage people to repair stuff wherever possible. Oh, this air conditioner, that's another thing I repaired. It's a great thing for the environment to be able to keep these things going rather than ending up in landfill. There is one exception I will make to that. There are some things throughout time that have become more energy efficient, and under those circumstances, like for instance, if you've got a refrigerator from the 1950s or something like that, you're probably best off to ditch that and get a new one, because you're going to consume a lot less electricity with a modern fridge with modern insulation and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, I mean, we recently replaced an air conditioner, and that old air conditioner just burned through so much electricity. We've ended up actually saving quite a lot of money and saving energy with the newer air conditioner. So, thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for keeping the chat nice and lively. Thank you for the super chats, all of the above and all them sorts of things. I've got plenty of stuff on the way. I am going to be doing a video very soon about the BlueSCSI DB25, the BlueSCSI V2 external. So it's almost, let's call it almost like a right of reply, because I did the Zulu SCSI one just recently, and I would like to just do a little bit of a side-by-side comparison and make a few different comments about the two products. So that's going to be coming up fairly soon as well as all the build videos that I've talked about, and of course the video review that I'm doing on this Halo Mage S resin 3D printer. Okay, so hope you all have a good afternoon, evening, morning, whatever it happens to be in your part of the world. Once again, thank you for joining me. I do hope to see you at the next one. So, bye-bye.